The automatic doors shuddered against the wind like they were trying to hold back the world itself. Rain hammered the glass in sheets, turning the parking lot into a black mirror. Inside Mercy General's emergency room, the fluorescent lights buzzed with that sickly hum that made everything look half dead already. Sophia Sullivan limped past the nurse's station, her left leg dragging just enough that people noticed. They always noticed. The knee brace under her scrubs whispered with each step, a quiet reminder that she was broken goods in a place that demanded perfection. She'd been at the front desk for 3 months now, answering phones, filing charts, staying out of the way. Nobody knew that 4 military helicopters were already in the air, racing against a clock that was about to run out. Nobody knew that the woman they'd shoved aside, the one they called a liability, a has-been, a waste of a scrub set, was the only person in 200 miles who could do what needed to be done. By morning, the hospital would be on its knees, and the nurse they'd forgotten would be the one standing over them all. Stay with me until the end of this story. If it grabs you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story can travel. The clock above the triage desk read 9:47 p.m. when the first ambulance screamed into the bay. Sophia was halfway through a stack of insurance forms, her knee throbbing in that deep, ugly way that meant the weather was turning bad. She'd learned to read her own body like a forecast. The brace dug into the soft tissue behind her kneecap, and she shifted her weight, trying to find a position that didn't make her want to bite down on something. The pain was constant now, not the sharp, bright agony of the initial injury that had faded months ago, replaced by this dull, relentless ache that lived in her bones. Some days it was manageable. Other days, like tonight, it felt like her leg was being slowly crushed in a vice that only tightened when she tried to ignore it. She popped 2 ibuprofen from the bottle she kept in her pocket and chased them with cold coffee. The coffee tasted like burnt plastic, but that was par for the course at Mercy General. Everything here tasted wrong, smelled wrong, felt wrong. This wasn't where she was supposed to be. 3 months ago, she'd been in San Diego, working out of Camp Pendleton, prepping for her 4th deployment. 3 months ago, her hands had been steady, her mind sharp, her body a machine she could trust. Then came the training exercise that went sideways, a helicopter making an emergency landing, Sophia jumping out before the skids touched down, her knee catching on the doorframe as the bird shifted. A stupid mistake, a rookie error. Except it shattered her kneecap into 11 pieces. The surgery had taken 6 hours. The recovery was supposed to take 6 months. But 3 months in, she was still limping, still wearing the brace, still getting looks from the physical therapist that said maybe this was as good as it was going to get. The Marines didn't have a place for damaged goods. They'd thanked her for her service, handed her an honorable discharge, and sent her on her way. No pension, not yet. No disability rating, still pending. Just a folder full of medical records and a recommendation to find alternative employment in the healthcare sector. So here she was. Mercy General Hospital, Cedar Heights, population 60,000 and falling. A place where the ER got busy on Friday nights when the bars closed, and quiet enough the rest of the week that you could hear the vending machine humming 3 hallways away. Sullivan. Dr. Marcus Caldwell's voice cut through the low hum of the ER like a blade through butter. He stood at the threshold of Trauma 1, his white coat crisp despite the fact that he'd been on shift for 12 hours. His hands were already gloved, his surgical cap perfectly positioned. Everything about Marcus Caldwell was perfect. His posture, his credentials, his confidence. And he'd made it very clear, from her first day, that she didn't belong here. His eyes flicked over Sophia the way you'd glance at a stain on the floor. Something to step around, something vaguely unpleasant that maintenance should have dealt with already. "I need you on phones tonight," he said. Not a question, not a request. "We've got a multi-vehicle pileup coming in. 6 criticals, maybe more. I can't have you slowing us down in the bay." Sophia's fingers tightened on the edge of the desk. The metal was cold, smooth, institutional. She'd gripped this same edge 100 times over the past 3 months, anchoring herself every time Caldwell reminded her that she wasn't good enough anymore. "I'm cleared for patient care, doctor," she said. Her voice came out flat, professional. She'd learned not to show emotion around him. "You're cleared for desk duty." Caldwell's smile didn't reach his eyes. It never did. "Let the real nurses handle this one." the real nurses. Sophia felt the words land like a slap, but she didn't flinch. She'd heard worse. She'd heard it all, actually, in the 3 months since she'd started here. The whispers in the break room, the jokes she wasn't supposed to overhear, the way people looked at her when she walked by. Not with pity exactly, but with something close to it. Caldwell turned before she could respond, already barking orders at the trauma team assembling behind him. "Rebecca, get me 2 units of O-neg standing by. Tom, I want the rapid infuser ready to go." The team moved like a machine, efficient and practiced. Rebecca Chen, young, blonde, ambitious, everything Sophia used to be, tied her hair back and snapped on gloves without breaking stride. Tom Nguyen, the charge nurse, was already wheeling the crash cart into position. They were good. Sophia could admit that. They were good at their jobs, but they'd never worked a trauma in a sandstorm with mortars landing 50 yards away. They'd never performed a thoracotomy in the back of a moving helicopter. They'd never held a 19-year-old kid's hand while he bled out, whispering promises they both knew were lies. Sophia had. And now she answered phones. The ambulance bay doors slammed open with a sound like a gunshot. A gurney burst through, paramedics shouting vitals over the wail of monitors. Male, mid-30s, ejected from vehicle, GCS of 6, BP 70 over 40, and dropping. Another gurney. Another set of voices. Female, early 20s, penetrating abdominal trauma, active bleeding. Then 2 more. Then another. The ER exploded into controlled chaos, nurses sprinting, doctors calling out orders, the sharp metallic tang of blood mixing with disinfectant and rain. Someone knocked over a tray of instruments, and the clatter of steel on tile was swallowed by the noise. Sophia stayed at the desk. She watched through the glass partition as Caldwell worked, his hands moving with the kind of precision that came from never having to doubt yourself. He called for a chest tube, and Rebecca had it ready before he finished the sentence. She used to be part of that dance. Now she was the audience. The phone rang. Sophia picked it up, her voice automatic. "Mercy General Emergency Department. How can I direct your call?" "I need to speak to someone about my husband. He came in about an hour ago. Chest pain. They said they were running tests. Let me transfer you to the cardiac unit, ma'am. One moment." Click, dial tone. The board lit up again. Another call. Another transfer. Another person she couldn't help. Sophia's knee was screaming now. She shifted her weight, trying to find relief, and knocked her coffee cup over. Lukewarm liquid spread across the desk, soaking into patient files and requisition forms. She grabbed a handful of napkins, the cheap kind that disintegrated on contact, and tried to mop it up. "Jesus, Sullivan!" Rebecca's voice sharp with irritation. She'd appeared at the desk, her scrubs already speckled with blood. "Can you not?" "Sorry, I've got it. Just try to keep it together, okay? Some of us are actually working tonight." Rebecca grabbed a patient chart from the rack and disappeared back into the trauma bay. Sophia sat there, napkins dripping in her hand, coffee staining her fingertips. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw something. She wanted to march into that trauma bay and show them what she could do, what she used to do, back when her body worked and her hands didn't shake. But she didn't. She cleaned up the mess. She answered the next call. She did her job. The clock ticked past 10, then 10:30. The initial wave of trauma patients stabilized or didn't. 2 went to surgery, 1 to the ICU, 1 didn't make it past the first 15 minutes. Caldwell worked through it all with machine-like efficiency, never hesitating, never second-guessing. That's when the phone rang again. Sophia almost didn't pick it up. She was staring at the trauma bay, watching Caldwell suture a liver laceration with neat, precise stitches. Her own hands were cramping from hours of typing. Her leg felt like it was being gnawed on by something with very sharp teeth. But the phone kept ringing. She picked it up. "Mercy General Emergency, how can I—" "This is Colonel Raymond Briggs, United States Marine Corps, calling from Camp Lejeune Tactical Operations. I need to speak to your head of trauma medicine immediately." Sophia straightened in her chair, the pain in her knee momentarily forgotten. The man's voice was clipped, hard, the kind of tone that didn't allow for questions or delays. "Sir, we're currently managing a mass casualty event," Sophia said, her own voice slipping into the cadence she'd learned in the service. "Dr. Caldwell is in the middle of surgery. I can take a message and have him call you back as soon as—" "No, You can get him on the line now, or you can explain to my commanding officer why a Marine colonel died because you decided a phone message was sufficient. Sophia's pulse kicked up. Sir, I understand the urgency, but Dr. Caldwell is literally elbow deep in a patient's abdomen right now. If I pull him out, the patient could, I don't care if he's performing a heart transplant. We have a critical asset inbound to your location, ETA 21 minutes. I need immediate confirmation that you have personnel on site capable of managing penetrating thoracic trauma under field conditions. Field conditions. That was the key phrase. That meant this wasn't a standard Medevac. That meant combat. Sir, can you clarify the nature of this asset? Are we talking military personnel injured in training? Or, I'm talking about a ranking officer with a sucking chest wound who needs a trauma team that knows what the hell they're doing. Now, I'm going to ask you one more time, and I need a name, not an excuse. Who on your staff has combat trauma experience? Sophia opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked around the ER, at Rebecca, who'd gone straight from nursing school to Mercy General. At Tom, who was good in a crisis but had never worked outside of a civilian hospital. At Caldwell, who had all the credentials in the world and zero experience with the kind of wet, messy, improvised medicine that happened when the textbook went out the window. She looked at her own reflection in the dark glass of the window. Sir, I need to know who I'm speaking to, she said carefully. There was a pause on the other end of the line, then, who am I speaking to? Sophia Sullivan, I'm the triage coordinator on duty tonight. The silence that followed was longer this time. Sophia could hear background noise, voices, static, the distinctive whump, whump, whump of helicopter rotors. Then, very quietly, the colonel said, Sullivan, first name Sophia, former flight nurse, 3rd Marine Expeditionary Unit, call sign Angel 6. The air went out of the room. Sophia's hand tightened on the phone so hard her knuckles went white. Her call sign. Her unit. Information that shouldn't be in any database that a random colonel could pull up on a whim. That was a long time ago, she said. Her voice sounded strange in her own ears. Angel 6, this is Overwatch Actual. We have a Priority 1 Medevac inbound to your location. Patient is a full-bird colonel, 52 years old, penetrating chest trauma from a training accident, probable tension pneumothorax. He's circling and we can't land anywhere else. Weather's closed in everything within 100 miles. I need confirmation that you're still operational and capable of performing emergency thoracic procedures. Yes or no? Sophia's throat was tight. I'm not in the field anymore, Colonel. I'm on desk duty. I didn't ask about your duty assignment. I asked if you're capable. She looked down at her leg, at the brace that dug into her skin, the knee that would never fully bend again. She thought about the physical therapy sessions where she couldn't do a simple squat without her vision going white. Then she thought about the last time she'd worked a real trauma, the last time her hands had moved without conscious thought, guided by instinct and training and 1,000 hours of practice. Yes, she said. Good. We're wheels down in 18 minutes. Tell your trauma chief to prep OR2 and stay the hell out of your way. We're not coming for him. We're coming for you. The line went dead. Sophia sat there with the phone still pressed to her ear, her heart slamming against her ribs. Around her, the ER churned on. Nurses restocking supplies, residents reviewing charts, the constant background hum of machines keeping people alive. She set the phone down with careful precision. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from something else entirely. She stood up, her knees screaming in protest, and walked toward the trauma bay. Each step sent a spike of pain up her leg, but she ignored it. Caldwell was closing now, his stitches neat and even. Rebecca was counting instruments. Tom was cleaning blood off the floor. Sophia pushed through the doors. Caldwell glanced up, irritation flashing across his face. Sullivan, I told you to stay at... We have a military medevac inbound, Sophia said. Her voice was steady now, stripped of everything but the facts. ETA 15 minutes. Penetrating chest trauma, probable tension pneumothorax, patient is a full-bird colonel. They're landing in our parking lot whether we're ready or not. That got his attention. Caldwell's hands stilled. Landing here? We're not a trauma center. We don't have the facilities for... They're not asking for facilities. They're asking for me. Silence. Rebecca and Tom both turned to stare. Caldwell's expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something that might have been anger. Asking for you, he repeated slowly. Why the hell would the military ask for you? Because I used to work combat casualties. They know my record. Your record? Caldwell's voice was dry, almost amused. Your record is 3 months of light duty and a bum knee. I'm not letting you near a critical patient. They're not asking. They're telling. Well, I'm telling you to get back to your desk before you... The windows rattled. It started as a vibration, low and deep, the kind of thing you felt in your chest before you heard it with your ears. Then it grew. A rhythmic thumping that made the overhead lights sway and set off car alarms in the parking lot. Rebecca moved to the window, her eyes going wide. Oh my God! Sophia didn't need to look. She knew that sound, the distinctive whump, whump, whump of military rotors. But this wasn't one helicopter. This was 4. They came in low and fast, black shapes against the night sky, navigation lights cutting through the rain, no circling, no radio check. They just dropped out of the clouds and touched down in the parking lot with precision that said these pilots had done this 1,000 times before. The ER went completely silent. The lead helicopter's side door slammed open before the skids had fully settled. Men poured out. Not orderlies, not paramedics, but soldiers in full combat gear, rifles, body armor, helmets with mounted lights. They moved in formation, fast and coordinated, spreading out to secure the perimeter. Caldwell stared, his mouth hanging open. What the hell is this? The lead soldier hit the ER doors first. He was tall, broad-shouldered, maybe 40, with the kind of face that had seen things and decided not to talk about them. His uniform was soaked through with rain. Behind him, 2 combat medics carried a stretcher between them. The man on the stretcher was gray, not pale, gray. His chest was wrapped in blood-soaked pressure dressings. His breathing was wrong, shallow, rapid, wet. The soldier's eyes swept the room and locked onto Caldwell. Where's Angel 6? Caldwell blinked. Who? The trauma nurse, Sullivan. Where is she? Every head in the ER turned. Sophia stepped forward. She was aware suddenly of how she must look. Her scrubs wrinkled and coffee-stained, her hair falling out of its ponytail, her limp pronounced. She looked like someone who'd been awake for 3 days straight. The soldier's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Recognition, maybe, or relief. He snapped to attention, his hand coming up in a crisp salute. Ma'am, Sergeant First Class David Torres, 2nd Raider Battalion. We have Colonel Vincent Hayes, penetrating chest trauma from a training accident, tension pneumothorax, BP dropping, oxygen saturation at 81%. We need you on him immediately. Sophia returned the salute automatically. 3 months of desk duty hadn't erased that reflex. What's the mechanism of injury? Fast rope training. He fell 20 feet onto rebar. Single penetration, right side, just below the clavicle. Entry wound approximately 2 inches in diameter. No exit wound. Bleeding was controlled in the field, but he's deteriorating fast. Sophia was already moving toward the stretcher. Her hands went to the colonel's neck, fingers finding the carotid pulse. Thready, weak, too fast. His lips were turning blue. She pulled back the pressure dressing and saw the wound. A ragged puncture just below the right collarbone, bubbling with each labored breath. Tension pneumothorax. Air was leaking into the chest cavity with every breath, building pressure, collapsing the lung, squeezing the heart. I need a 14-gauge needle, chest tube insertion kit, local anesthetic, and sterile gloves, Sophia said. Her voice had changed. No hesitation, no uncertainty. Get me a drape and call the blood bank. We're going to need at least 4 units of O-negative standing by. Rebecca was staring at her like she'd started speaking a foreign language. You're not authorized to move or get out of my way. Rebecca moved. Tom was faster. He'd already grabbed the crash cart, was already pulling out the needle decompression kit. He handed it to Sophia without a word. Sophia's hands were already working. She didn't think about the brace digging into her knee. She didn't think about Caldwell standing there frozen. She prepped the insertion site with betadine, no time for a proper sterile field. She found the landmark, the second intercostal space at the midclavicular line, and drove the 14-gauge needle in with one smooth motion. Air hissed out under pressure. The colonel's chest visibly deflated. His oxygen saturation started climbing, 83, 85, 87. Tube, Sophia said. Someone put the chest tube kit in her hand. She made the incision between the ribs and slid the tube through. It went in smooth. She sutured it in place with quick, efficient stitches, then connected it to the drainage system. Blood immediately started flowing into the collection chamber. Dark, venous blood. A lot of it. He's bleeding into his chest cavity, Sophia said. We need to get him to surgery now. Caldwell finally found his voice. Now hold on just a goddamn minute. I don't know what the hell you think you're doing, Sullivan, but you're not authorized to perform invasive procedures. You're on desk duty, and I'm certainly not going to let you— Sir, Torres's voice cut through Caldwell's tirade like a knife. With all due respect, we're not here for you. Caldwell's mouth opened, closed. I'm the chief of trauma at this hospital. I'm the senior physician on duty. If anyone's going to treat this patient, the person we came here for. Torres's eyes were hard. We have a critically injured Marine colonel. We flew through a storm to get him here because we were told we had an asset on site who could keep him alive. That asset is Nurse Sullivan, not you. This is my ER, my hospital. I don't care if you flew in from Washington. Dr. Caldwell. A new voice, quiet but carrying weight. An older man in a Marine dress uniform had appeared in the doorway, rain dripping from his cover. His uniform was heavy with ribbons and medals. I'm Colonel Raymond Briggs. We spoke on the phone. I need you to step back and let Nurse Sullivan do her job. I don't answer to you, Caldwell said, but his voice had lost some of its heat. No, you don't, but that man on the table does. Colonel Hayes has 2 daughters and a wife waiting for him at home. He's been in the Marines for 30 years, and right now he's dying. So I'm going to ask you, are you going to help us save him, or are you going to stand there and let your ego kill a good man? The room was silent except for the hiss of oxygen and the beep of monitors. Caldwell looked at Briggs, at Torres, at the soldiers standing in formation, at Sophia, her hand still on the colonel's chest. Fine, he said. The word came out like broken glass. But I'm observing. Fair enough, Briggs said. He turned to Sophia. What do you need? I need to get him stable enough to fly. The chest tube's buying us time, but he's still bleeding. The nearest trauma center equipped for this is Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, 42 minutes by air. I need to go with him. Caldwell made a strangled sound. You can't be serious. You're going to fly in a helicopter in this weather? I've done it before, Sophia said. Many times. That was before you— Caldwell caught himself. Before I what? Sophia looked up at him. Before I got injured? Before my knee got shattered? Before I became useless? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Sophia turned back to the patient. Tom, page the blood bank. Tell them we need 6 units of O-neg loaded for transport. Rebecca, get me 2 more large-bore IVs and another liter of saline. They moved. Torres leaned in close. The bird's ready when you are. Weather's getting worse. We need to go soon. 5 minutes, Sophia said. Those 5 minutes felt like hours. Sophia worked in silence, her hands moving through familiar patterns, checking lines, adjusting flow rates, monitoring vitals. The colonel's pressure was holding. His oxygen was up to 92%. The bleeding from the chest tube had slowed. Okay, she said finally, let's move him. They transferred the colonel to a flight backboard. Sophia kept her eyes on the monitor the whole time, watching for any change. The numbers held steady. Torres and his team lifted the backboard. We're heading out. You coming, ma'am? Sophia looked back at the ER, at Caldwell, standing there with his arms crossed, at Rebecca and Tom and the other nurses who'd worked with her for 3 months without ever really seeing her. Yeah, she said. I'm coming. She followed the soldiers out into the storm. The rain hit her like a physical blow, soaking through her scrubs in seconds. The parking lot was chaos. helicopter rotors spinning, downwash, creating miniature tornadoes of debris. The lead Blackhawk sat with its doors open, the interior lit red. They loaded the colonel first. Sophia climbed in after him, her bad leg protesting. Inside, it was all noise and vibration, equipment strapped to every surface, medics in flight suits moving with quick efficiency. Sophia found a jump seat next to the colonel's stretcher and buckled in. Her hands were already reaching for the monitor leads. Torres appeared in the doorway. "We're wheels up in 60 seconds. You good?" "I'm good." "Welcome back, Angel." The words hit her harder than she expected. Welcome back, like she'd been lost, like she was finally home. The doors closed, the engine spooled up, and then they were lifting, the ground falling away beneath them, the hospital shrinking to a collection of lights in the darkness. The pilot's voice crackled in her headset. "Angel 6, this is Overwatch 1, en route to Wright-Patterson, ETA 38 minutes. How's our package?" Sophia keyed the mic. "Stable for now, pressure's holding at 90/55, SAT's at 93. Bleeding's controlled. But that could change fast. Copy that. Weather's rough, so it's going to be a bumpy ride." Bumpy was an understatement. The Blackhawk hit the first pocket of turbulence 5 minutes in, dropping 20 feet in an instant. Sophia's stomach lurched, but her hand stayed steady on the colonel's chest. The helicopter yawed left, then right, fighting through wind shear. The medic across from her, a young corpsman with a shaved head, looked green. "Does it always get this bad?" "Sometimes worse," Sophia said. But the colonel was deteriorating. She saw it in the numbers first, pressure dropping 90/50, then 85/48, heart rate climbing. She checked the chest tube. Still draining, but the blood was flowing faster now. "I think he's bleeding again," she said. The corpsman checked the IV lines. "We're running fluids wide open. I can push more, but do it, and get me another unit of blood ready." The helicopter bucked again, harder this time, and Sophia's bad knees slammed into the bulkhead. White-hot pain shot up her leg. She bit down on the inside of her cheek hard enough to taste blood. The colonel's pressure was still dropping, 80/45. "I need to resight the chest tube," Sophia said. "In flight." The corpsman's eyes went wide. "In this weather? You got a better idea?" He didn't. Sophia braced herself against the bulkhead, wedging her bad leg under the bench seat. The helicopter lurched, and she grabbed a handhold. Her knee screamed. She ignored it. She pulled back the dressing and saw the problem. The tube had shifted, pulled partially out by the movement. She grabbed a fresh tube from the kit, found the insertion point by feel, and drove it home. The helicopter hit another air pocket and dropped. Sophia's hand slipped, the tube going in at the wrong angle. The colonel's whole body went rigid. "Damn it!" Sophia pulled back, repositioned, tried again. This time it slid in smooth. She sutured it in place with one hand while holding herself steady with the other. Blood started draining again. The colonel's color improved. His oxygen climbed back to 90%. Sophia exhaled, her hands shaking now, adrenaline making her fingers twitch. She'd done it. In a helicopter. In a storm. The pilot's voice came through again. "Angel 6, Wright-Patterson Towers requesting your patient status. They've got a full trauma team standing by." Sophia keyed the mic. "Patient is stable. Chest tube resighted, bleeding controlled, vitals holding. We're good to land. Roger that, coming up on final approach." The helicopter began its descent. Through the small window, Sophia could see the base spread out below, runways lit up like rivers of light. They came in fast and steep. The skids touched concrete with a jolt that sent pain lancing through Sophia's knee, but she was already unstrapping, already reaching for the colonel. The doors opened and a full trauma team was waiting. Penetrating chest trauma, field decompression performed, chest tube in place, and draining, Sophia said, her voice clipping through the handoff. "He's had 4 units of ONEG. He's on 2 liters of oxygen, pressure's holding at 85/50. You need to get him to an OR immediately." The receiving surgeon, a lieutenant colonel with graying hair, nodded. "We've got him from here. Good work, nurse." They took the colonel, transferring him to their gurney. Within seconds, they were moving, jogging toward the trauma center entrance. Sophia watched them go. She stood there on the rain-slicked tarmac, her scrubs soaked through, her knee a ball of fire. She felt like she'd been awake for a week. She felt alive. Torres appeared at her elbow. "Hell of a thing you just did. Just doing my job. That stopped being just a job about the time you recited a chest tube in a helicopter during a storm." He looked at her with respect. "We're heading back to Mercy General. You coming?" Sophia thought about Caldwell's face, about the desk and the paperwork and 3 months of being invisible. "Yeah," she said. "I'm coming." The flight back was quieter. The storm had passed, leaving behind clear skies and a full moon. Sophia sat in the jump seat, staring out the window, her mind replaying every moment of the last hour. She'd saved him. Despite the knee, despite the pain, despite 3 months of being told she wasn't good enough, she'd saved him. They landed in the same parking lot. The scene was different now. The other helicopters were gone. The ambulances long since departed. Through the windows, Sophia could see nurses moving at a normal pace. She climbed out of the Blackhawk, her leg barely supporting her weight. Every step was agony, but she forced herself to walk without limping. Pride, maybe, or stubbornness. The automatic doors slid open. Inside, the ER was cleaning up, blood on the floor being mopped, equipment scattered, nurses restocking supplies with exhausted movements. Caldwell was at the nurses' station. He looked up when Sophia walked in, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then his pager went off. He glanced at it, and his face went pale. Rebecca appeared from the break room. "We've got incoming. Military transport from Wright-Patterson. 1 critical patient, extensive surgical repair. They're asking for—" She stopped, looking at Sophia. "They're asking for you. Again." Caldwell stared. "What did you do out there?" Sophia didn't answer. She just walked past him, her limp pronounced now, and took her place at the trauma bay doors. The phone on the desk started ringing. This time, Rebecca picked it up. "Mercy General emergency?" "Yes. Yes, she's here." She held the phone out to Sophia. "It's the Pentagon." Sophia took the phone, her hand steadier than it had any right to be. The ER had gone quiet again, that particular kind of silence that came when people were pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. "This is Sullivan." "Nurse Sullivan, this is General Patricia Vance, Joint Chiefs Medical Operations." The woman's voice was crisp, no nonsense. "I understand you just brought Colonel Hayes in alive. The surgeons at Wright-Patterson are telling me that if you hadn't recited that chest tube when you did, he would have coded in the air. That accurate?" "I did what needed to be done, ma'am." "That's what I keep hearing. I'm also hearing you've been on desk duty for 3 months because of an injury. That true?" "Yes, ma'am." A pause. Sophia could hear papers rustling, the click of a keyboard. "Says here you separated from active duty with an honorable discharge, medical, shattered patella, extensive soft tissue damage. But looking at what you just pulled off tonight, I'd say the prognosis was wrong." Sophia didn't answer. Her knee was throbbing so badly now that she could feel her pulse in it. She wanted to sit down. She wanted to take the brace off and ice the whole damn thing until it went numb. She stayed standing. "How's the knee?" Vance asked. "Manageable." "Good, because I have a problem, and I think you might be the solution. We're standing up a new combat medical training program at Quantico. We need instructors who've been in the field, who know what it's like when everything goes sideways. You interested?" Sophia's throat went tight. "Ma'am, I'm not sure I'm qualified to—" "You just performed field medicine in a combat environment with a knee that should have kept you grounded. If that's not qualified, I don't know what is." Another pause. "The pay's competitive, full benefits. Think about it. I'll have someone reach out in the next 48 hours. The line went dead. Sophia stood there holding the phone, aware that every eye in the ER was on her. She set it down carefully. Caldwell spoke first. "What did she say?" "She offered me a job, training combat medics at Quantico." Rebecca's mouth fell open. Tom let out a low whistle. Caldwell's face had gone through several colors, red, white, then settling on a mottled purple. "Let me get this straight. You've been here 3 months. 3 months of desk duty, of barely being able to walk across the ER without limping, of... He stopped himself. Of what? Sophia's voice was quiet, dangerous. I didn't mean... No, please, finish the thought. Caldwell's face changed. For the first time since Sophia had met him, he looked uncertain. I was wrong. About you. About what you could do. He took a breath. I owe you an apology. You said that already. I mean it this time. Before Sophia could respond, the ambulance bay doors burst open again. This time it was the Wright-Patterson transport team, wheeling in Colonel Hayes on a gurney, surrounded by enough equipment to stock a small ICU. The lead surgeon looked up and saw Sophia. Relief crossed his face. Sullivan. Good. I need you on this. Caldwell found his voice. I'm the chief of... I don't care. The lieutenant colonel's voice could have cut steel. This patient survived an operation that should have killed him. He's stable, but barely. And the only person I trust to monitor him is the woman who kept him alive long enough for me to operate. So step aside. Caldwell stepped aside. They wheeled Hayes into the ICU bay, and Sophia followed without waiting for permission. Her limp was pronounced now. Each step sent jagged bolts of pain from her knee to her hip, but she forced herself to keep pace. The colonel looked better than he had in the helicopter, but not by much. His breathing was assisted by a ventilator, and the monitors showed vital signs that were holding steady through chemicals and willpower. Sophia took her place at his bedside and started running through checks with automatic precision. Airway secure. Breathing supported. Circulation maintained. The 2 chest tubes were draining. Less blood now, more serosanguinous fluid. Good. He arrested twice on the table, the lieutenant colonel said quietly. Both times we got him back, but it was close. If you'd been even 2 minutes slower, but I wasn't. No, you weren't. He studied her for a moment. I meant what I said earlier. We'd find a place for you. Combat medicine needs people who can think under pressure. Us. He handed her a business card. Don't waste your talent in a place that doesn't appreciate it. Then he was gone. The next 6 hours passed in that strange, suspended way hospital nights had, time moving both too fast and too slow. Sophia didn't leave the bedside. Her knee had progressed from painful to excruciating to a kind of numb throbbing that she knew meant she'd pay for this tomorrow. She didn't care. Around 3 a.m., Colonel Hayes's eyes opened. It happened slowly. A flutter of eyelids, pupils trying to focus, the gradual dawning of consciousness. He looked around the ICU before his gaze landed on Sophia. He tried to speak, but the breathing tube prevented it. Don't try to talk, Sophia said. You're at Mercy General. You had an accident during training. You're going to be okay. Hayes's hand moved, groping for something. Sophia caught it, and he squeezed with surprising strength. You want to know what happened? A small nod. You fell during fast rope training, landed on rebar, collapsed your lung, caused internal bleeding. We flew you to Wright-Patterson for surgery and brought you back for recovery. You've been out for about 8 hours. Another squeeze. His eyes were asking a question. You're going to make a full recovery. The surgeons repaired everything. You'll have a scar and a hell of a story, but you'll be okay. Hayes's eyes closed, then opened again, and this time there was recognition in them. He squeezed her hand 3 times. The old signal, thank you. Sophia squeezed back once. You're welcome. At 5 a.m., Caldwell appeared in the doorway. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. His white coat wrinkled, his hair mussed, dark circles under his eyes. How is he? Stable, vitals holding, chest tubes draining appropriately. If he continues like this, we can start weaning the ventilator in 12 hours. Caldwell nodded slowly. He stood in the doorway, not quite entering. I owe you an apology, a real one this time. You said that already. I didn't mean it then, not really, but I mean it now. He took a breath. What I said to you, what I implied about your capabilities, it was unprofessional, cruel, wrong. Sophia adjusted the colonel's IV drip, made a note on the flow sheet. I've been thinking about why I said those things, Caldwell continued. I think I was threatened by you. You have experience I'll never have. And when you showed up here, injured, it made me feel superior, like I'd finally found someone I could look down on. His voice cracked. That's terrible to admit. Yeah, Sophia said. It is. Caldwell flinched but didn't look away. If you want to stay at Mercy General, I'll authorize full patient care privileges, no restrictions. You'd be an asset here. Sophia looked at him, at this man who'd spent 3 months making her feel worthless. I appreciate the offer, doctor, she said finally, but I don't think I'll be staying. Something in Caldwell's face crumpled. Because of how I treated you. Partly, but mostly because I've outgrown this place. I spent 3 months thinking I was finished. Tonight reminded me who I am, what I'm capable of, and I deserve better than somewhere that took 3 months and a helicopter rescue to see it. Caldwell stood there for another moment, then nodded. I hope you find what you're looking for. I think I already have. At 7 a.m., her shift officially ended. The day nurse, an older woman named Margaret, who'd always been kind, came in to take over. I heard what happened, Margaret said. The whole hospital's talking about it. You saved a colonel's life in a helicopter. Just did my job. That's more than a job, honey. That's a calling. Margaret squeezed her shoulder. Get some rest. Sophia gathered her things. She was halfway to the exit when Rebecca caught up with her. Sullivan, wait. Sophia turned. Rebecca looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight, arms crossed. I wanted to say something about last night, about how I treated you. Don't worry about it. No, I need to say this. Rebecca took a breath. I was awful to you, we all were, and it wasn't because you couldn't do the job. It was because I made you uncomfortable, Sophia finished, because looking at me meant thinking about what happens when nurses get injured, when their bodies give out. Rebecca's eyes widened. How did you? Because I would have felt the same way 3 months ago, before it happened to me. Sophia shifted her bag. It's easier to mock someone than to empathize with them. Easier to turn them into a cautionary tale than to see yourself in their position. That doesn't make it okay. No, it doesn't. But it makes it human. Sophia started to turn away, then stopped. You're a good nurse, Rebecca. Fast, skilled. You don't panic under pressure. But you've never had to do this job when your body's working against you, when every step hurts, when you're running on spite and stubbornness. Maybe you never will. But if you do, I hope someone treats you better than you treated me. She walked out before Rebecca could respond. The parking lot was quiet, the early morning sun painting the sky pink and gold. Sophia's car sat alone under a flickering streetlight. She got in, started the engine, and just sat there. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Colonel Hayes stable. Surgeons optimistic. You did good work. Lieutenant Colonel Morrison, Wright-Patterson. Another buzz. Heard about your night. Offer stands. General Vance Sophia stared at the messages, her vision blurring slightly. She wasn't crying, just tired, so tired her bones ached. But underneath the exhaustion was something else. Something she hadn't felt in 3 months. Hope. She drove home through quiet streets, past the coffee shop that never got her order right, past the gym she couldn't use anymore, past all the markers of a life that had never quite fit. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it, small, sparse, temporary. She dropped her bag by the door and collapsed onto the couch without changing out of her scrubs. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer. It was 7:30 a.m. She'd been awake for 24 hours, and whoever was calling could leave a message. But the number had a 703 area code. Virginia. Military. She answered. Sullivan. Good morning, Nurse Sullivan. This is Captain James Rivera, Personnel Liaison for General Vance's office. I apologize for the early call, but the General wanted me to reach out immediately regarding the training position at Quantico. Sophia sat up, her knee protesting. That was fast. The General doesn't waste time. We'd like to fly you out next week for a formal interview and facility tour. All expenses paid. Would that work with your schedule? Sophia thought about her schedule, about the shifts at Mercy General that she'd already mentally quit, about Caldwell's offer to stay. Yeah, she said. That would work. Excellent. I'll have my assistant send travel details. We're looking at Tuesday or Wednesday. The interview typically takes about 4 hours. Then we'd give you a tour and introduce you to some of the staff. What exactly would this position involve? Teaching advanced trauma care to special operations medics, SEALs, Rangers, Marine Recon. The curriculum covers everything from field triage to surgical procedures under combat conditions. We need instructors who can teach both the technical skills and the mental resilience to perform under extreme stress. I'm not a doctor. We have doctors. What we need are people who've actually done this work in the field, who know what it's like when the textbook doesn't apply because you're working in the back of a truck with mortars landing around you. After she hung up, Sophia sat on her couch and let it sink in. A week ago, she'd been invisible, a liability, the broken nurse who couldn't hack it. Now she had job offers from Wright-Patterson and Quantico. Now the Pentagon was flying her out for interviews. She should have been excited, celebrating. Instead, she felt hollow, like she'd been running on adrenaline and anger for so long that now, with the finish line in sight, she didn't know what to do with herself. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "This is Sergeant Torres, just checking in. How's the knee?" Sophia looked down at her leg. The brace was cutting into her skin. The knee itself was swollen to almost twice its normal size, hot to the touch. She typed back, "Been better, been worse. That's the spirit. Colonel Hayes is asking about you. Wants to thank you personally when he's off the vent. Tell him he doesn't need to. Already tried. He's stubborn. Must be a Marine thing." Ha. Get some rest, Angel. You earned it. Sophia set the phone down and closed her eyes. Just for a minute, she told herself. She woke up 6 hours later to her phone ringing. The screen showed another unfamiliar number. This one, local. "Sullivan," she answered, voice rough with sleep. "Ms. Sullivan, this is Karen Winters from Channel 7 News. We're doing a story about the dramatic rescue at Mercy General last night, and we'd love to get a comment." "How did you get this number?" "We have our sources. We've been told you're the nurse who saved a Marine colonel's life during a mid-flight emergency. Can you confirm?" No comment. Sophia hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. She didn't answer. It rang 4 more times in 10 minutes. She listened to the first voicemail, a reporter from a military news outlet wanting an interview. She deleted the rest without listening. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "Hey, you might want to avoid social media. One of the medics posted about what you did, and it's going viral. News crews are outside the hospital." Another text from Margaret. "The administrator wants to talk to you. Says it's urgent." Sophia stared at her phone like it had turned into a snake. She'd saved a life, done her job, and now everyone wanted a piece of her. She turned her phone off. Then she took a shower, a long one, hot enough to turn her skin pink, standing under the spray until her bad knee couldn't support her weight, and she had to sit on the tiled floor and just let the water run over her. When she got out, she caught sight of herself in the bathroom mirror. She looked like hell. Dark circles. Bruises on her shoulder from the helicopter, her knees swollen and angry, surgical scars standing out white against inflamed skin. But her eyes were different, clearer, more focused. She looked like someone who knew what she was worth. Sophia turned her phone back on. The messages had multiplied, texts, voicemails, emails, even a Facebook request from someone claiming to be a documentary filmmaker. She ignored all of them except one. A text from General Vance's office with travel details for Tuesday. She saved it, then opened a new message to Caldwell. "I'm formally resigning from Mercy General, effective immediately. I'll work scheduled shifts through the week if needed, but I'd prefer a clean break." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came in less than a minute. "Understood. Final paycheck ready Friday. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Good luck." That was it. 3 months of her life, reduced to a text exchange. She spent the rest of Sunday sleeping, icing her knee, ignoring her phone. Monday morning, she woke to find the story had made national news. Disabled veteran saves Marine colonel in dramatic helicopter rescue. From desk duty to hero, one nurse's remarkable return. There was grainy cell phone footage from the parking lot showing the helicopter's landing. A blurry photo of Sophia climbing into the Black Hawk. An interview with a patient describing how this nurse who everyone thought couldn't do the job just took over like she owned the place. Sophia closed the browser and threw her laptop across the room. It hit the wall with a satisfying crack. Her phone rang, not a number this time, but a name, Sergeant Torres. She answered. If you're calling to tell me I'm famous, I already know. Actually, I'm calling because Colonel Hayes is awake, coherent, and demanding to talk to you. He's threatening to pull his own breathing tube if we don't set up a call. Despite everything, Sophia smiled. That sounds like him. Can you do a video call? Yeah, give me 5 minutes. When Torres called back on FaceTime, Colonel Hayes appeared on screen, propped in a hospital bed, the breathing tube gone but an oxygen cannula still in place. He looked terrible, pale, drawn, exhausted, but his eyes were sharp. Nurse Sullivan, he said, voice rough. I've been trying to reach you. So I heard. You really threatened to extubate yourself? I've done worse for less important reasons. A ghost of a smile. I wanted to thank you, properly. You don't need to Yes, I do. I remember the helicopter. I remember you working on me when we hit turbulence. I remember thinking I was going to die, and then your hands on my chest and your voice telling me to stay with you. His voice caught. I have 2 daughters, 15 and 17. Because of you, I'm going to see them graduate high school, walk them down the aisle someday, meet my grandkids. You gave me that. Sophia's throat was tight. I just did my job. No. You did more than that. You risked your career, your health, your life, getting on that helicopter with your knee the way it is. Torres told me about the turbulence, about how you braced yourself and kept working. He paused. That's not just doing your job. That's heroism. I'm not a hero. The hell you're not. I've been in the Marines 30 years. I've seen heroes, real ones, and you're one of them, whether you accept that or not. After the call ended, Sophia sat staring at her phone. The apartment was quiet except for the refrigerator hum and distant traffic. She thought about Mercy General, about how easy it would be to just go back, to settle for being appreciated in a place that had taken 3 months to see her worth. Then she thought about Quantico, about training special operations medics, about teaching them to do what she did, to stay calm when everything was falling apart, to save lives when it seemed impossible. She knew which one she wanted. Tuesday morning arrived faster than expected. She packed light, professional clothes for the interview, comfortable clothes for travel, extra braces, and pain medication. The flight to Virginia was smooth, uneventful, giving her too much time to think. A driver met her at the airport, a young Marine corporal who kept sneaking glances at her in the rear-view mirror. It's an honor to drive you, ma'am. I'm just a nurse. You're the nurse who saved Colonel Hayes. Everyone on base knows about it. Quantico was sprawling, organized, humming with purposeful energy. The driver took her to a building near the medical facilities where Captain Rivera was waiting. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 35, with earnest intensity. Nurse Sullivan, welcome. How was your flight? Fine, thank you. We have your interview at 10:00 with General Vance and her staff. Before that, a quick tour so you can see what you'd be working with. The training facility was impressive. State-of-the-art simulation labs, equipment that made Mercy General look ancient, dedicated spaces for everything from basic field medicine to advanced surgical techniques. This is where we do high-fidelity training, Rivera explained, gesturing to a room mocked up to look like a helicopter interior. We can simulate turbulence, equipment failures, patient deterioration, everything you dealt with the other night, but controlled. Sophia stepped into the mock helicopter. It was eerily similar to the Blackhawk, down to the jump seats and equipment racks. Most of our instructors have never done anything like what you did for real, Rivera said quietly. They teach from manuals and simulation, but you've lived it. Once. I've done it once. Which is once more than almost anyone else here. The interview room was small, professional, with a long table and several serious-looking people. General Vance was at the center, late 50s, gray hair, military short, eyes that missed nothing. Nurse Sullivan, she said. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. Sophia sat. Her knee was already aching. I'll get straight to the point. We need someone who can teach advanced combat trauma to our elite operators. Someone who understands not just the medicine, but the environment, the chaos, the fear, the pressure. Your record suggests you're that person. Your actions Saturday confirmed it. Are you interested? I am, but I need to be honest about my limitations. My knee is injured. We know. We've reviewed your medical records. Vance leaned forward. Here's what I see. A nurse who shattered her kneecap and was told she'd never work trauma again. Who spent 3 months on desk duty being treated like she was useless. Who then performed emergency medicine in conditions that would break most people. Your injury doesn't make you weaker. It makes you tougher. It makes you someone who knows how to push through pain and keep working when quitting would be easier. One of the other officers spoke, a colonel with ranger tabs. We're not asking you to deploy. We're asking you to teach, to share what you know. Can you do that? Could she? Sophia thought about the past 3 months, about the pain and humiliation and slow erosion of everything she'd thought she was. About the moment in that helicopter when her hands had moved automatically and she'd remembered what it felt like to be good at something. Yes, she said. I can do that. The interview lasted 2 hours. They asked about her experience, her training philosophy, her thoughts on combat medicine. They asked about the helicopter rescue, making her walk through every decision. They asked about her injury, not as if it was a problem, but wanting to understand how she'd overcome it. We'll be in touch within 48 hours, Vance said. But between you and me, you're exactly what we're looking for. Start thinking about when you can begin. The flight back felt different, lighter. Sophia spent it staring at clouds, thinking about what her life might look like in 6 months. In a year. She landed just after 6 p.m. Her phone showed 17 missed calls and 43 texts. Most were from reporters, a few from Mercy General colleagues. One from Caldwell. News crews still outside the hospital. Thought you should know. And one from an unknown number. Ms. Sullivan, this is Harold Martinez, director of Cedar Heights Medical Center. I'd like to discuss a position. Please call at your earliest convenience. Sophia deleted it without responding. She was making dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta, when someone knocked. She checked the peephole and saw Sergeant Torres in civilian clothes. She opened the door. What are you doing here? Colonel Hayes is being transferred to North Carolina tomorrow. He wanted me to give you this before we left. He handed her a small box. Inside was a military challenge coin and a handwritten note. Nurse Sullivan. This coin belonged to my father. He earned it in Vietnam for saving 3 men under fire. I'm passing it to you because you embody the same courage. Thank you for my life. If you ever need anything, you call me. Colonel Vincent Hayes. There was a phone number at the bottom. Sophia stared at the coin, her vision blurring. I can't accept this. You don't have a choice. Direct order from a superior officer. I'm not in the military anymore. He said you'd say that. His response was unprintable, but the gist was once a Marine, always a Marine. And you saved his life, so you're stuck with him now. Despite everything, Sophia laughed. Shaky, half-choked, but genuine. Torres smiled. He also wanted me to tell you if you take the Quantico job, and he really hopes you do, he'll guest lecture whenever you need a real operator to scare the students. Tell him I'll think about it. I'll tell him that's a yes. After he left, Sophia sat holding the challenge coin, turning it over. The metal was worn smooth, the insignia barely visible. Her phone rang. General Vance's office. Sullivan. Nurse Sullivan. Captain Rivera. I'm pleased to inform you that General Vance would like to offer you the position of Senior Combat Trauma Instructor at Quantico. Starting salary is $85,000, full benefits, temporary housing until you find something permanent. We'd like you to start in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Enough time to pack up her life in Cedar Heights, to say whatever goodbyes needed saying, to close this chapter. I accept, Sophia said. Excellent. Welcome aboard. She should have felt elated, celebrating. Instead, she felt that same hollow exhaustion, like she'd been running so long that her body didn't know how to stop. Her phone buzzed. This is Rebecca from Mercy General. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I thought you should know. Caldwell's been different since you left. Quieter. He apologized to the staff for how he's been managing things. I think what you said really got through. Anyway, congratulations, you deserve it. Sophia stared at the message before responding. Thanks. Good luck with everything. She went to bed early, exhausted but unable to sleep. Her mind kept replaying the past 4 days. The helicopter, the storm, the colonel's gray face, the chest tube sliding home. Caldwell's expression. The interview at Quantico. The weight of the challenge coin. At 2 a.m., she gave up and went to her kitchen. Made coffee, strong and black, and sat at her table staring at nothing. Her phone lit up. An email from an address she didn't recognize, sent at 1:47 a.m. Subject line, "You don't know me, but I need your help." Sophia almost deleted it, probably spam. But something made her open it. Ms. Sullivan. My name is Jennifer Hayes. I'm Colonel Hayes' daughter. My dad gave me your email and said if I ever had questions about nursing or the military or life, you'd give me straight answers instead of bullshit. I'm 17 and I want to be a combat medic when I graduate. Everyone's telling me it's too hard, that I should do something safer, that I'll get hurt. But then I saw what you did for my dad, and I thought, if she can do that with a messed up knee and everyone doubting her, maybe I can do this too. Can we talk sometime? Sophia read it 3 times, then hit reply. Jennifer, yes, we can talk. And for what it's worth, if you want to be a combat medic, don't let anyone tell you you can't. It's hard, brutal. You'll see things you can't unsee, but it's also the most important work you'll ever do. Call me anytime. Sophia. She sent it before she could second guess. The response came almost immediately. Thank you. Really, you have no idea what this means. My dad says you're a hero. I believe him. Sophia sat staring at those last 4 words. My dad says you're a hero. She'd spent 3 months feeling like a failure. And now, in 4 days, everything had flipped. She was a hero, an inspiration, exactly what the military needed. The problem was, she didn't feel like any of those things. She felt tired, uncertain, like someone who'd gotten lucky once and was now expected to be lucky every time. Her phone rang. At 2:15 in the morning, the screen showed Mercy General Hospital. Sophia answered. This is Sullivan. Sophia, it's Tom. I know you're not on staff anymore, but we have a situation, and Caldwell asked me to call you. Sophia's pulse kicked up. What kind of situation? Multi-vehicle accident on Route 9. 8 criticals incoming. One of them is a pediatric case. 7-year-old boy, penetrating abdominal trauma, extensive internal bleeding. Caldwell's good, but this is beyond what we handle here. Nearest pediatric trauma center is an hour away. We need someone who's done field medicine, who can think fast. We need you. Sophia looked at the clock, at her knee, still swollen, at the challenge coin on her kitchen table. I'm not on staff anymore, Tom. Caldwell's authorizing you as emergency consultant. Please, Sophia. This kid is going to die if we don't do something in the next 30 minutes, and you're the only person within 50 miles who might save him. Through the phone, alarms blaring, people shouting, organized chaos. She thought about saying no, about protecting herself, about the fact that she didn't owe Mercy General anything. She looked at the email from Jennifer Hayes still open on her phone. My dad says you're a hero. I'll be there in 10 minutes, Sophia said, and grabbed her keys. The drive to Mercy General took 8 minutes. Sophia pushed her old Honda harder than she should have, running 2 yellow lights that were more red than amber, her knees screaming every time she hit the brake. The streets were empty at this hour, just her headlights cutting through darkness and the occasional street lamp throwing shadows across cracked pavement. Her phone was on speaker, Tom's voice coming through with updates every 30 seconds. ETA, 7 minutes on the ambulance. Kid's pressure is 60/30 and dropping. They've got 2 large bore IVs running wide open, but he's not responding. Abdomen's rigid, distended. They think it's a liver lack. How much blood has he lost? Paramedics estimate at least 30% of his volume, maybe more. Sophia's hands tightened on the wheel. A 7-year-old had maybe 2 liters of blood total. If he'd lost 600 milliliters, he was already in hemorrhagic shock. Another few minutes and his organs would start shutting down. Brain damage, kidney failure, cardiac arrest. She pulled into the hospital parking lot and didn't bother looking for a spot. Just parked in the ambulance bay, killed the engine, and moved. Her knee buckled on the first step and she caught herself against the car door, pain whiting out her vision for a second. She bit down hard enough to taste blood and forced herself upright. The ER doors slid open and the chaos hit her like a physical thing. Nurses running, monitors screaming, the metallic smell of blood so thick it coated the back of her throat. And in the center of it all, Caldwell, his white coat already speckled red, his face the color of old newspaper. He saw Sophia and something in his expression shifted. Not relief exactly, more like a drowning man spotting a rope. "Trauma 1, he said. No preamble, no apology for calling her in the middle of the night after she'd quit. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before that ambulance arrives. I need you to tell me I can save this kid." Sophia pushed past him into Trauma 1. The room was set up but wrong. Equipment in places that would slow them down. The rapid infuser on the wrong side of the bed, surgical trays that hadn't been opened yet. "You're not ready," she said. "We're doing the best we can with what we—" "No." Sophia's voice cut through his excuses like a scalpel. "Rebecca, move the rapid infuser to the left side of the bed. Tom, I need 4 units of O-negative blood here now, not when I ask for it. Now. Get me a pediatric thoracotomy tray and a vascular access kit. Someone call anesthesia and tell them we might need to crack a chest." The room went still for half a second. Then everyone moved at once. Caldwell was staring at her. "You think it's that bad?" "I think if his liver's shredded and we can't control the bleeding in the next 20 minutes, he's dead. So yes, it's that bad." Sophia was already gloving up, her movements automatic despite the fact that her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from the adrenaline that was lighting up every nerve ending in her body. "What's his name?" "The kid?" "Yes, the kid. He has a name." Tom looked up from the blood bank phone. "Jacob Morrison, 7 years old. Parents are in the waiting room. Mom's a nurse at Cedar Heights Elementary. Dad's a contractor." Sophia closed her eyes for just a second. A nurse's kid. Someone who would know exactly what was happening, exactly how bad the odds were, exactly what it meant when doctors stopped making eye contact. The ambulance siren cut through the night, getting closer, and then the bay doors exploded inward. The paramedics came through at a dead run, the gurney rattling over tile, a small shape strapped to the backboard that looked too tiny, too fragile, too young to be this broken. 7-year-old male, restrained passenger in a 3-car MVA, took a side impact at approximately 40 miles per hour, the lead paramedic said, his voice clipping through the report with practiced efficiency. Positive LOC at the scene, GCS of 9. Abdomen rigid and distended, BP 60/28, heart rate 140, and climbing. We've pushed 2 liters of saline and he's not responding. Last pressure check was 30 seconds ago, 55/22. 55/22. That wasn't shock anymore. That was pre-arrest. They transferred Jacob to the trauma bed, and Sophia got her first real look at him. He was small for 7, all knees and elbows. His dark hair matted with blood from a scalp laceration that was the least of his problems. His abdomen was swollen tight as a drum, the skin mottled purple and yellow. His breathing was rapid and shallow, his lips blue. Sophia put her hand on his belly and felt it, hard, hot, distended. Free fluid, lots of it, blood pooling in the peritoneal cavity. "We need to get him to surgery now," Sophia said. Caldwell's face had gone even paler. "We don't have a pediatric surgeon on staff. The nearest one is at University Hospital, 45 minutes away." "Then call them and tell them we're coming. But first we need to stabilize him enough to survive the transfer." Sophia was already working, her hands moving through familiar patterns, even as her mind raced through the options. They were all bad. "Tom, get me another 2 units of blood running. Rebecca, start a central line. I need better access than these peripheral IVs." "I've never done a pediatric central line," Rebecca said. Her voice was tight. "Then watch and learn." Sophia grabbed the kit and moved to the head of the bed. Jacob's neck was small, the landmarks harder to find than on an adult. But her hands remembered this. She'd done it 100 times in field hospitals where the patients were barely older than this kid, where the lighting was worse and the conditions were hell. She prepped the site, found the internal jugular by feel, and slid the needle in. Dark blood flashed back in the chamber. Good. She threaded the catheter, secured it, and stepped back. "Rebecca, you're up. Run blood through that line as fast as it'll take. The monitor was screaming now. Jacob's pressure had dropped to 48/18. His heart rate was 160, his body trying desperately to compensate for the blood loss by pumping faster, harder, burning through what little oxygen he had left. Caldwell moved to the bedside. "We need to intubate. His airway's compromised." "Not yet," Sophia said. "His oxygen saturation is 82%. And if we paralyze him to intubate, we take away his last compensatory mechanism. Right now, his body is fighting to stay alive. We sedate him. We might not get him back." Sophia looked at the monitor. Jacob's pressure was holding at 48/20. Not climbing, but not dropping either. The blood was helping. "We need to figure out where he's bleeding and stop it before we do anything else." "How?" "We can't do an exploratory lap here. We don't have the equipment. We don't have the surgical support. We don't need a full OR. We just need to buy him time." Sophia looked at Tom. "Get me an ultrasound machine, now." Tom didn't ask questions, just moved. The ultrasound arrived 30 seconds later, wheeled in by a respiratory therapist who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Sophia grabbed the probe, squirted gel on Jacob's distended abdomen, and pressed down. The image that appeared on screen made her stomach drop. Free fluid everywhere. The peritoneal cavity was full of blood, dark, swirling, pooling in every available space. And there, in the right upper quadrant, the liver, or what was left of it. The organ was torn, a jagged laceration running through the right lobe, blood actively pumping from the damaged tissue with each heartbeat. "Grade 4 liver laceration," Sophia said quietly. "Maybe grade 5, the hepatic arteries involved." Caldwell stared at the screen. "That's not survivable without immediate surgery. It is if we can stop the bleeding long enough to get him to someone who can fix it." Sophia set the probe down and looked at Caldwell. "I need you to call University Hospital right now. Tell them we have a pediatric trauma with an active arterial bleed and we need their surgical team standing by. Then I need you to call for a helicopter." "A helicopter? In this weather?" Sophia glanced at the windows. Rain was starting to fall again, fat drops that hit the glass like bullets. The storm that had passed through Saturday night was coming back for round 2. "I don't care if it's raining sideways. Ground transport is 45 minutes, and this kid doesn't have 45 minutes. He might not have 20, so you call for a bird and you tell them it's life or death, because it is." Caldwell pulled out his phone and stepped away. Sophia turned back to Jacob. His pressure was dropping again, 42/16. The blood they were pouring into him was leaking out just as fast, pooling in his abdomen, drowning him from the inside. She needed to stop the bleeding, or at least slow it down. In a fully equipped OR with a trauma surgeon, they'd open him up, pack the liver, maybe clamp the hepatic artery if they had to. But here, in an ER that wasn't designed for this, with equipment that was barely adequate and a patient who would die if they wasted another 5 minutes, she had one option: a damage control procedure. Quick, dirty, designed to buy time instead of fix the problem. "I need to put in a Blakemore tube," Sophia said. Tom's head snapped up. "A Blakemore? That's for esophageal varices. It's a balloon tamponade device, and the same principle applies. If I can get it positioned over the liver laceration and inflate the balloon, it'll apply direct pressure to the bleeding site. Might not stop it completely, but it'll slow it down." Rebecca was shaking her head. "That's off-label use. That's not what that device is designed for. If you do it wrong, he dies. If I don't do it, he dies anyway. At least this gives him a chance." Sophia looked at the monitor. Pressure 38/14, heart rate 170. "We're out of time. Get me the Blakemore kit." Nobody moved. "Now!" Sophia's voice cracked like a whip. Tom grabbed the kit from the supply cabinet and brought it over. Sophia opened it with shaking hands, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline that was making her vision sharp, and her hearing too loud, and everything moving both too fast and too slow. The Blakemore tube was designed to go down the esophagus, to compress bleeding varices in the stomach. What Sophia was about to do was insert it through a small incision in Jacob's abdomen, thread it up to the liver, and inflate the balloon directly against the laceration. It was improvised, desperate, the kind of thing that would get her sued if it didn't work, and maybe even if it did. But it was all she had. "I need local anesthetic and a scalpel," Sophia said. Caldwell had come back, his phone still in his hand. "Helicopter's 10 minutes out. University Hospital is prepping their OR. They said. He stopped when he saw what Sophia was holding. What are you doing? Saving his life. Hold him still. She didn't wait for permission. Just prepped the site, a small area in the right upper quadrant, as close to the liver as she could get without hitting major vessels, and made the incision. Blood welled up immediately, but it was venous, dark, and slow. She could work with that. She slid the Blakemore tube through the incision, feeding it carefully upward, watching the ultrasound screen to guide her. The tube was stiff, designed for the esophagus, and it didn't want to go where she needed it. She had to angle it, twist it, force it. Jacob's body jerked. His pressure dropped to 34/12. He's coding, Rebecca said, her voice rising. Sophia, I know. Keep the blood running. Sophia's hands were steady, even though her heart was trying to punch through her ribcage. The tube was almost there, almost positioned over the laceration. Just another inch. It slid into place. Give me the inflation syringe. Tom handed it over. Sophia connected it to the Blakemore tube and started pushing air into the balloon. Slowly, carefully. Too much pressure and she'd blow out what was left of the liver. Too little and it wouldn't compress the bleeding. She watched the ultrasound screen. The balloon was expanding, pressing against the torn tissue, compressing the hepatic artery. The bleeding slowed, didn't stop, but slowed. Jacob's pressure started to climb. 36/14, 40/16, 44/18. It's working, Tom said. He sounded shocked. Sophia didn't respond. She was too busy watching the monitor, watching the ultrasound, making sure the balloon stayed in place and the bleeding stayed controlled. Her knee was on fire. Her hands were cramping. She was pretty sure she'd just performed a procedure that would get her censured by every medical board in the country. But Jacob's pressure was holding at 48/20. His heart rate was dropping to 140. His oxygen saturation was climbing to 88%. He was alive. The sound of helicopter rotors cut through the rain, growing louder, and then the familiar thump, thump, thump that Sophia had heard 1,000 times before. The flight crew came through the ER doors in full gear, moving with the kind of controlled urgency that said they knew exactly how bad this was. The lead flight nurse took one look at Jacob and then at Sophia. What have we got? 7-year-old male, grade 4 or 5 liver laceration with active arterial bleeding. I've got a Blakemore tube in place for tamponade. He's had 6 units of blood, pressure's holding at 48/20, but he's tenuous. University Hospital is standing by for emergency surgery. The flight nurse blinked. You put a Blakemore tube in his abdomen? You got a better idea? No, that's actually brilliant. She turned to her team. Let's get him packaged. We need to move fast before that balloon shifts. Abspicken. Bits. They transferred Jacob to the flight stretcher with practiced efficiency, securing lines and monitors and equipment. Sophia stayed at his side, her hand on the Blakemore tube, making sure it didn't move. I'm coming with you, she said. The flight nurse shook her head. We don't have room for... You have room. And if that balloon shifts in flight, if his pressure drops, you're going to need someone who knows what they're doing. I just flew a Marine colonel to Wright-Patterson in worse weather than this. I can handle a 7-year-old to University Hospital. The flight nurse looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but you're responsible for that tube. It moves. It's on you. Deal. They wheeled Jacob toward the ambulance bay. Sophia followed, her limp pronounced now, each step sending jolts of pain up her leg that she ignored through sheer willpower. Behind her, she could hear Caldwell calling her name, but she didn't stop. The helicopter was a Eurocopter EC-145, newer and faster than the Blackhawks from Saturday night, with more room in the cabin. They loaded Jacob through the side door and Sophia climbed in after him, taking the jump seat next to the stretcher. The flight nurse, her name tag said Williams, was already hooking up to the onboard monitors. How's his pressure? Sophia checked. 50/22, holding. Good. Let's keep it that way. The engine spooled up. The rotors began to spin. And then they were lifting, the hospital falling away beneath them, the rain hammering against the windscreen. Sophia's hand stayed on the Blakemore tube, feeling for any shift, any movement. The balloon was holding. The bleeding was controlled. But they were flying into a storm with a kid who could die if she sneezed wrong. The pilot's voice came through the headset. Flight time to University Hospital is 12 minutes. Weather's deteriorating fast. We're going to hit some chop. Some chop turned out to be an understatement. 5 minutes into the flight, they hit turbulence that made Saturday night's ride feel like a luxury cruise. The helicopter bucked and yawed, dropping 20 feet in an instant. Sophia's stomach lurched and her bad knee slammed into the bulkhead. White-hot pain exploded up her leg. Her vision went gray at the edges. She bit down on the inside of her cheek hard enough to split it and tasted blood. Used the pain to focus. Her hand stayed on the Blakemore tube, holding it steady even as the helicopter pitched sideways. Jacob's pressure dropped. 46/18. 42/16. "The balloon's shifting," Sophia said. Williams checked the ultrasound. They had a portable unit strapped to the bulkhead. "You're right. It's moving inferior. You need to reposition." Sophia's hands were already moving. She adjusted the tube, pulling it back slightly, angling it up. The helicopter dropped again and her elbow cracked against the equipment rack. She didn't let go. The balloon slid back into position. The pressure on the liver laceration increased. The bleeding slowed again. Jacob's pressure climbed. 44/18, 48/20. "Got it," Sophia said through gritted teeth. The rest of the flight was a blur of turbulence and monitor checks and making sure the Blakemore tube stayed exactly where it needed to be. By the time they touched down on the roof of University Hospital, Sophia's hands were shaking so badly she could barely unbuckle her harness. The trauma team was waiting, a full surgical crew with a pediatric surgeon who looked like he was about 16 but moved with the kind of confidence that said he knew his job. They took report from Williams while simultaneously transferring Jacob to their gurney. The surgeon looked at the ultrasound images on his tablet, then at Sophia. "You're the one who placed the Blakemore tube?" "Yeah. That's the most creative field medicine I've seen in 20 years. It probably saved his life." He paused. "You coming to the OR?" Sophia wanted to see this through, to make sure Jacob made it. But her knee had progressed beyond pain into something else entirely, a deep, grinding sensation that meant she'd done real damage tonight. She could barely stand. "No," she said. "He's yours now." They wheeled Jacob toward the elevators at a run. Sophia watched them go, standing on the helicopter pad in the rain, her scrubs soaked through, her knees screaming. Williams appeared at her side. "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired. That was some of the best combat medicine I've ever seen, and I flew in Afghanistan for 3 years." Williams pulled out a business card. "If you're ever looking for work, our flight program is always hiring. We need people who can think under pressure." Sophia took the card, added it to the collection she was apparently building. "Thanks. You need a ride back to Cedar Heights? I can catch a cab." "In this weather? At 3 in the morning?" Williams shook her head. "We're refueling and heading back anyway. Come on." The flight back was quieter. No patient to monitor, no procedures to perform. Just Sophia sitting in the jump seat, staring out at the city lights below, thinking about a 7-year-old kid whose name she'd never forget. They landed at Mercy General just as the sun was starting to think about rising. Sophia climbed out of the helicopter, her knee barely supporting her weight, and limped toward the ER entrance. Caldwell was waiting inside. He looked like he'd aged another 10 years since she'd left. "How is he, me?" he asked. "Alive. In surgery. The University Hospital team thinks he'll make it." Sophia leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. "No guarantees, but he's got a chance." "Because of you." Caldwell's voice was quiet. "If you hadn't been here, if you hadn't done that procedure, he would have died, on my watch, in my ER. "Yeah, he would have." Caldwell flinched at the bluntness. "I owe you more than an apology. I don't even know what I owe you." "You don't owe me anything." Sophia pushed off from the wall. "I need to go home." "Wait." Caldwell pulled an envelope from his coat pocket. "This came for you yesterday. Hospital administration. I was going to forward it, but since you're here..." Sophia took the envelope, opened it. Inside was a letter on official hospital letterhead. "Dear Mrs. Sullivan, we would like to formally offer you the position of Director of Emergency Medicine at Mercy General Hospital. This position comes with a significant salary increase, full benefits, and complete autonomy over staffing and protocols. We recognize that we failed to appreciate your skills and experience, and we would like the opportunity to correct that mistake." The letter went on, detailing salary numbers that made Sophia blink, benefits that were actually generous, promises of support and resources, and everything she would have killed for 3 months ago. She read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. "I'm not taking it," she said. Caldwell's face fell. "Sophia, please. I know I was terrible to you. I know I made your life hell, but I'm trying to make it right. The administration is trying to make it right. That's a significant position. You'd be running the entire department. I know. And 3 months ago, I would have been grateful for it. Honored, even." Sophia looked around the ER, at the nurses cleaning up from the night's chaos, at the residents charting, at the trauma bay where she'd just saved a kid's life, using nothing but improvisation and stubbornness. "But I don't want to run this ER. I don't want to fight for respect in a place that took a dramatic helicopter rescue and a dying child to see what I was worth. I want to be somewhere that values me from day one, somewhere that doesn't need proof. Quantico." "Yeah, Quantico." Caldwell nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. You're too good for this place. You always were." He held out his hand. "Thank you for coming back, for saving that boy, for showing me what real medicine looks like." Sophia shook his hand. His grip was firm, genuine. Then she turned and walked out of Mercy General Hospital for the last time. Her car was still parked in the ambulance bay. She got in, started the engine, and just sat there for a moment. The sun was rising now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The storm had passed, leaving behind clean air and wet pavement that reflected the light like mirrors. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Ms. Sullivan, this is Dr. Richard Kim, Pediatric Surgery, University Hospital. Jacob Morrison is out of surgery and stable. We repaired the liver laceration and he's expected to make a full recovery. His parents asked me to thank you. They said you saved their son's life. They're right." Sophia read the message 3 times, her vision blurring. Another text, this one from Tom. "The whole ER is talking about what you did tonight. You're a legend. Safe travels to Virginia." Another from Rebecca. "I'm sorry it took me so long to see what you were capable of. You're the best nurse I've ever worked with. Thank you for everything." Sophia set her phone down and started driving. Not to her apartment. Not yet. She drove to the overlook on the east side of town, the place where you could see the whole city spread out below, where teenagers went to make out, and old people went to remember. She parked and got out, limping to the railing. Her knee was destroyed. She could feel it, the instability, the grinding sensation that meant cartilage damage on top of everything else. Tomorrow she'd need to see a doctor, maybe have another surgery, maybe accept that she had done permanent damage pushing herself this hard. But right now, standing on this overlook watching the sunrise over Cedar Heights, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 months. She felt whole. Her phone rang. General Vance's office, according to the caller ID. She answered. "Sullivan?" "Nurse Sullivan, this is General Vance. Not an aide, not an assistant. The general herself. I just got off the phone with the chief of surgery at University Hospital. He told me what you did tonight, a Blakemore tube for liver tamponade. That's field medicine at its finest. Just doing what needed to be done, ma'am." That's exactly the attitude we need at Quantico, which is why I'm calling. I know we said 3 weeks before you start, but we have a situation. One of our instructors had a family emergency and had to leave immediately. We've got a class of 40 special operations medics starting Monday, and no one qualified to teach the advanced trauma module. A pause. "Any chance you could start this weekend?" Sophia looked out at the city, at the place that had broken her down and then, in its own way, built her back up, at the life she was about to leave behind. "Yeah," she said, "I can start this weekend." "Outstanding. I'll have Captain Rivera send over the details. Welcome to the team, Instructor Sullivan." The line went dead. Sophia stood there for a long moment, phone in hand, watching the sun climb higher. Then she got back in her car and drove to her apartment. She had packing to do, a life to dismantle, a future to step into. She spent the rest of Wednesday sleeping, packing, and ignoring the dozen interview requests that flooded her phone. By Thursday morning, her apartment was reduced to boxes and suitcases. her life condensed into things that could fit in a car. She was loading the last box into her trunk when a black sedan pulled up to the curb. Sergeant Torres got out, along with another Marine she didn't recognize, older, graying, with stars on his collar that made Sophia straighten instinctively. "Nurse Sullivan," Torres said. "This is General Marcus Reeves. He wanted to meet you before you left for Virginia." The general stepped forward and offered his hand. "It's an honor, Nurse Sullivan. Colonel Hayes is a personal friend. What you did for him, there aren't words. I appreciate that, sir, but I just did your job." "I know. Hayes said you'd say that." Reeves smiled. "I'm here because I wanted to personally thank you, and because I have something for you." Torres handed him a folder. Reeves opened it and pulled out a document with official military seals. "This is a commendation from the Commandant of the Marine Corps, recognizing your actions in saving Colonel Hayes' life. It comes with a medal that will be presented at a ceremony at Quantico next month." He handed her the document. "You're also being considered for the Navy and Marine Corps Medal. That's the highest non-combat decoration for heroism. The paperwork is still going through channels, but I wanted you to know." Sophia stared at the document, unable to speak. "There's one more thing," Reeves continued. "Colonel Hayes wanted to be here himself, but his doctors won't clear him for travel yet, so he asked me to give you this." Torres handed her a small box. Inside was a pair of insignia, the caduceus and fouled anchor of a Navy medical officer. "Hayes put in a request to have you reinstated in the military with a direct commission as a lieutenant," Reeves said. "Given your combat experience and the circumstances of your discharge, the request was approved. If you want it, you can return to active duty as an officer. You'd keep the Quantico assignment, but you'd be doing it as a Marine, not a civilian contractor." Sophia's hands were shaking. "I don't understand. I was medically discharged. My knee—" "Your knee held up through 2 emergency helicopter flights and a field procedure that most surgeons wouldn't attempt. The medical board is willing to grant you a waiver." Reeves's expression softened. "You don't have to decide now. Think about it. But Hayes wanted you to know the option is there. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And we take care of our own." After they left, Sophia sat in her car holding the insignia, turning them over in her hands. The medal was cool, solid, real. She'd spent 3 months thinking her military career was over, that she'd lost everything that mattered, and now she was being offered a chance to get it back. Not as the broken veteran who couldn't hack it anymore, but as an officer, a leader, someone worthy of respect. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jennifer Hayes. "My dad told me about the offer. Please say yes. The Marines need people like you. I need people like you to look up to." Sophia closed her eyes, thought about the past week, about the helicopters and the trauma, and the moment when her hands had remembered what they were capable of. Thought about Caldwell's face when he realized he'd been wrong. Thought about Jacob Morrison, 7 years old, alive because she'd refused to give up. Thought about who she used to be and who she was becoming. She opened her eyes and started typing a response. Then her phone rang. Mercy General Hospital. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "This is Sullivan. Sophia." It was Tom, and his voice was wrong, tight, scared. "I know you're leaving town. I know you're done here, but we need you, right now." "What happened?" "There's been an explosion at the chemical plant on Route 7. We've got mass casualties incoming, 20 confirmed, maybe more. Burns, blast injuries, chemical exposure, and Caldwell—" His voice broke. "Caldwell was driving past when it happened. He went in to help evacuate workers. He's not responding to radio. We think he's trapped inside." Sophia's blood went cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we have 20 critically injured patients about to hit our ER. Our trauma chief is missing and possibly dead, and everyone else is either too inexperienced or too scared to handle this. We need someone who can run a mass casualty event. We need you." Sophia looked at her packed car, at the insignia still in her hand, at the road that would take her to Quantico, and everything she'd been offered. "How long until the first ambulance arrives?" she asked. 8 minutes, maybe less. 8 minutes to make a choice. Stay and help the place that had broken her, or leave and never look back. The smart choice was obvious. She didn't owe Mercy General anything, Caldwell had made her life hell for 3 months. This wasn't her problem anymore. But 20 people were about to die if someone didn't step up. And despite everything, despite all the pain and humiliation and nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering if she'd ever be worth anything again, she was still a nurse. "I'll be there in 5 minutes," Sophia said, and threw her car into gear. Sophia's tires screamed as she took the corner into the hospital parking lot, doing 45 in a 25 zone. She could see the smoke from here, a black column rising from the industrial district 3 miles west, thick and oily, the kind that came from burning chemicals, the kind that killed you slow if you breathed it long enough. She abandoned her car in the same ambulance bay spot she'd used 2 nights ago and hit the ER doors at a run. Her knee buckled immediately, and she caught herself on the doorframe, vision whiting out for a second. She tasted blood where she'd bitten through her already split cheek. The ER was chaos, but the wrong kind. Panicked instead of controlled, people moving fast but without direction. Rebecca was at the nurse's station, her face sheet white, trying to coordinate over 3 phone lines at once. Tom was wheeling crash carts into position, but his hands were shaking. 2 residents Sophia didn't know were just standing there, frozen, staring at the radio that was crackling with updates from the scene. Nobody was in charge. Sophia grabbed the radio from the nearest resident's hand. "This is Sullivan at Mercy General. What's your situation?" The voice that came back was male, strained, barely audible over background noise. Screaming, sirens, something that sounded like metal tearing. "We've got 23 confirmed casualties, chemical burns and blast injuries, plus an unknown number still trapped in the building. First ambulance is wheels up now. ETA 4 minutes. Second wave right behind. We need static. Capacity issues. University Hospital and Cedar Heights Medical are both at capacity from an earlier MVC. You're the only ER within 30 miles that can take these patients. 23 casualties, all critical, all coming here." Sophia keyed the mic. "Understood. Do you have eyes on Dr. Caldwell? Mercy General Trauma Chief, white male, early 40s? A pause. More static. Then, "Negative. We've got 2 civilians who went into the building before it was secured. No confirmation on identity. Building structurally unsound, and we can't get firefighters in yet." Sophia's stomach dropped, but she pushed it aside. Caldwell was either alive or he wasn't, and right now she had 23 people who definitely needed her. She set the radio down and turned to face the ER. Every eye was on her. "Rebecca, I need you to set up a triage area in the parking lot. Use the ambulance bay. Get me 3 color-coded sections, red for immediate, yellow for delayed, green for walking wounded. Tom, convert every available space into a treatment area. I want trauma 1 and 2 set up for surgery, the cardiac bay for vascular injuries, the ortho room for fractures and amputations. Pull every nurse off their current assignment and get them into trauma gear." Nobody moved. "Now!" Sophia's voice cracked like a gunshot. They moved. Rebecca grabbed 2 other nurses and ran for the supply closet. Tom was already on the phone with the blood bank. The residents scattered to their assigned positions. Sophia pulled out her phone and dialed a number she'd saved 3 days ago. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Lieutenant Colonel Morrison." "Sir, this is Sophia Sullivan. I need to call in a favor." "Name it." "I've got a mass casualty situation at Mercy General Hospital in Cedar Heights. 23 critical patients incoming, chemical exposure and blast trauma. We're the only ER within 30 miles that can handle this, and we're understaffed. I need medical personnel. Anyone you can spare." Morrison didn't hesitate. "I've got a flight crew at Wright-Patterson that just came off shift. They can be wheels up in 10 minutes with a full trauma team. I'll also call Fort Bragg. They've got a field surgical team that trains for exactly this kind of scenario." "Thank you, sir." "Sullivan? Don't thank me. Just save those people." The line went dead. The first ambulance screamed into the bay 3.5 minutes later. The paramedics burst through the doors with a patient on a gurney, male, mid-30s, his entire upper body wrapped in wet sheets that were already soaking through with fluid from his burns. The smell hit Sophia like a physical thing, cooked meat and chemicals so strong it made her gag. Chemical burn patient, 70% TBSA, mostly 3rd degree, the paramedic said, his voice professionally flat, even though his hands were shaking. Exposure to hydrofluoric acid, We've started calcium gluconate, but he's already showing signs of hypocalcemia, BP 90/60 and dropping. Hydrofluoric acid, one of the worst chemical burns possible. It didn't just destroy skin, it leached calcium from the bones, caused cardiac arrhythmias, shut down organs. People died from HF burns that covered less area than this man had. Trauma 1, Sophia said. Get me central line access, start calcium gluconate continuous infusion, and someone call cardiology. His heart's going to start doing things it shouldn't. They wheeled him away. The second ambulance was already pulling in. Then the third, then the fourth. Within 15 minutes, the ER had gone from controlled chaos to something out of a war zone. Patients everywhere, on gurneys, on the floor, propped against walls. The smell of burned flesh mixed with disinfectant and fear sweat. Alarms screaming from a dozen monitors. Nurses running between patients, trying to triage, trying to prioritize, trying to decide who got treatment first and who had to wait. Sophia moved through it like she was back in Kandahar. She didn't think, just acted. This patient needed intubation. That one needed a chest tube. The woman in the corner with the compound fracture had to wait, because the man with the tension pneumothorax would die in the next 5 minutes if someone didn't decompress his chest. She was placing her third chest tube of the night when she heard Rebecca's voice behind her. Sophia, you need to see this. Sophia didn't look up. Her hands were inside a patient's chest cavity, guiding the tube between ribs that had been fractured by the blast. Unless someone's coding, it can wait. It can't wait. Something in Rebecca's tone made Sophia pause. She finished securing the tube, checked the drainage, and turned around. Rebecca was holding a tablet, her face the color of old milk. The news is here. They're filming. Sophia took the tablet. The screen showed a live news feed from the parking lot. A reporter in a too-perfect suit was standing in front of the ER entrance, talking earnestly into a camera, while behind her, patients were being wheeled in on gurneys. Developing situation at Mercy General Hospital, where a chemical plant explosion has overwhelmed the small community ER. Sources tell us that the hospital's chief of trauma, Dr. Marcus Caldwell, is among those missing after heroically entering the burning building to rescue workers. In his absence, the ER appears to be operating under the direction of the camera panned, caught Sophia in frame, her scrubs soaked with blood and chemical residue, her hair falling out of its ponytail, barking orders at a nurse while simultaneously holding pressure on a patient's severed femoral artery. Sophia Sullivan, the nurse who made national headlines just days ago for saving a Marine colonel's life during a dramatic helicopter rescue. Sullivan, who had reportedly left Mercy General to take a position at Quantico, appears to have returned to lead the emergency response. Sophia shoved the tablet back at Rebecca. Get them out of here. This is a restricted area. I tried. They have a First Amendment right to... I don't care about the First Amendment. I care about patient privacy and the fact that their cameras are going to get in the way when the helicopter arrives. Sophia grabbed the radio. Security, this is Sullivan. I need the news crews moved back from the ambulance bay immediately. If they refuse, call the police and have them arrested for obstruction. She didn't wait for a response, just moved to the next patient. A woman in her 50s with burns covering her face and arms, conscious but in shock, her eyes wide and unfocused. Ma'am, I'm Sophia. I'm a nurse. You're at the hospital. You're safe now. Sophia checked her airway, patent but swelling from smoke inhalation. Can you tell me your name? The woman's lips moved, but no sound came out. It's okay. Don't try to talk. I'm going to give you something for the pain, and then we're going to take care of those burns. Sophia looked up. Tom, I need morphine and a saline drip, and get me ophthalmology. I think she's got corneal burns. The woman grabbed Sophia's wrist with surprising strength. Her mouth moved again, forming words. Sophia leaned in close. My husband? The woman whispered. He went back. For the others, Sophia's blood went cold. What did he look like? Tall. White coat. He's a doctor. Caldwell. The sound of helicopter rotors cut through the noise. Sophia looked up and saw not one but two birds dropping out of the sky. A blackhawk and a chinook, both with military markings. They touched down in the parking lot with enough downwash to scatter debris and set off every car alarm in a 3-block radius. The side doors opened and people poured out. Not just flight crews, but a full surgical team in combat fatigues, carrying equipment cases that looked like they weighed more than most people. Leading them was Morrison himself, still in his dress uniform from this morning, now trading the jacket for scrubs as he moved. He found Sophia in the chaos. "Where do you need us?" "Trauma 2. I've got 3 patients who need immediate surgery and only 1 OR. She pointed. "The burn patient in the corner has HF exposure and needs debridement. The blast trauma in Bay 4 has a ruptured spleen. The woman by the door has a tension pneumo that I've temporized, but she needs a thoracotomy." Morrison nodded. "We've got it. You focus on triage." The military team moved like a machine, efficient and practiced. Within minutes, they'd converted Trauma 2 into a functional operating theater. The sound of a bone saw started up. Someone called for more blood. A monitor started alarming and then stopped as someone fixed whatever had gone wrong. Sophia moved on to the next patient. And the next. And the next. She lost track of time. Lost track of how many chest tubes she'd placed, how many IVs she'd started, how many times she'd had to tell someone that their family member was critical and she didn't know if they'd make it. Her knee had gone past pain into numbness. Her hands were cramping. She was pretty sure she had chemical burns on her forearms from where she'd gotten splashed with contaminated fluid. She didn't stop. At some point, she couldn't have said when, Tom appeared at her elbow. "The fire department just called. They got into the building. They found 2 people." Sophia's hand stilled on the IV line she was placing. "Are they alive?" "One is. The other—" Tom's voice broke. "They're bringing them both in now."
But chance.
The ambulance that pulled in 5 minutes later moved slower than the others. No sirens, no lights. The paramedics who got out had the kind of expressions that said they'd seen something they couldn't unsee. They opened the back doors and pulled out a gurney. On it was a body bag. Then they pulled out a second gurney. This one had a person on it, barely recognizable through the soot and blood, but alive, conscious, trying to sit up. Caldwell. The paramedics wheeled him into the ER, and Sophia was there before they'd even stopped moving. Caldwell looked like hell. His white coat was gone. His shirt was shredded and burned. His face was covered in soot and blood from a deep laceration across his forehead. But he was breathing, talking, alive. "The others," he said, his voice rough from smoke inhalation. "I got 3 of them out, but there were more. I tried to go back, but the floor collapsed and—" "Stop talking." Sophia was already assessing him. Second-degree burns on his hands and forearms, possible fractured ribs, the head laceration that needed stitches, smoke inhalation that would probably require monitoring but wasn't immediately life-threatening. "You're an idiot. You know that, right?" "I had to help them." "You almost died." "But I didn't." Caldwell grabbed her hand. His grip was weak but determined. "Who's running the ER?" "I am." Something crossed his face, relief mixed with something else, gratitude maybe, or recognition. "How many have we lost?" "None yet, but the night's not over." "How many patients total?" 23 confirmed, 19 still alive. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him. "You went into a burning building, after everything you said about me being a liability, about not being able to handle trauma. You went into a burning building without proper gear or backup." Caldwell's eyes were red-rimmed, whether from smoke or tears Sophia couldn't tell. "I know, I'm a hypocrite." "No, you're human. You saw people who needed help and you tried to help them. That's what we do, all of us." She squeezed his hand. "But you're still an idiot." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Then it faded. "The person in the body bag, do you know who—" "Not yet. It was a woman, late 20s, blonde hair. She was one of the plant workers. She made me promise to tell her family that she tried, that she stayed behind to help others evacuate, and that's why she didn't get out." His voice cracked. "I promised her." Sophia felt something crack inside her chest. 23 patients, 19 still alive, 4 dead, 4 people who'd gone to work this morning not knowing they'd never come home. "I'll tell them," she said quietly. "I'll make sure they know." The rest of the night blurred together, more patients arriving, more procedures, more moments when someone's heart stopped and Sophia had to restart it. More times when she had to make the choice of who to treat and who to make wait and live with the knowledge that waiting might mean dying. At some point, the military surgical team finished their cases and Morrison found Sophia again. "We've stabilized everyone we can here," he said. "The 3 most critical are ready for transfer to University Hospital. The rest should be manageable with your staff." Thank you doesn't seem like enough. "You called. We came. That's what we do." Morrison paused. "For what it's worth, you ran this mass casualty better than most battalion surgeons I've worked with. You should be proud." After he left, Sophia finally allowed herself to stop moving. She found a chair in the break room and sat down. Her knee immediately swelled to the size of a grapefruit. She stared at it, too tired to feel anything. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. "The news is asking for a statement. Tell them no comment. They're not going to leave until someone talks to them." Sophia looked up. "Fine. I'll talk to them." She limped out to the parking lot where the news crews were still set up, their lights turning the pre-dawn darkness into artificial day. The reporter who'd been filming earlier rushed over, microphone extended. "Nurse Sullivan, can you give us an update on the victims of the chemical plant explosion?" Sophia looked directly into the camera. Her scrubs were soaked with blood and chemicals. Her face was smudged with soot. Her knee was barely supporting her weight. She looked like she'd been through a war. She probably had. "We received 23 patients tonight from the explosion at Morrison Chemical. 19 are still alive. 4 died either at the scene or during transport. Of the 19 survivors, 3 are in critical condition and have been transferred to University Hospital. The remaining 16 are stable and receiving treatment here." She paused. "I want to make something very clear. The people who died tonight were heroes. They stayed behind to help others evacuate. They gave their lives so that others could live. Their families deserve to know that." "Can you tell us about Dr. Caldwell? We've heard he was injured trying to rescue workers from the building." Dr. Caldwell sustained injuries while helping to evacuate trapped workers. He's currently receiving treatment and is expected to make a full recovery. His actions tonight saved at least 3 lives. There are reports that you had resigned from Mercy General to take a position at Quantico. What made you come back?" Sophia looked at the reporter, at the camera, at the crowd of people who'd gathered to watch. "Because that's what nurses do," she said simply. "People needed help, so I helped them." She turned and walked back into the hospital before anyone could ask another question. The sun was fully up by the time the last patient was stabilized. Sophia found Caldwell in one of the treatment bays, his hands bandaged, his head stitched, looking exhausted but alive. He was staring at his phone, his expression unreadable. "You should be resting," Sophia said. "Can't. The hospital administrator has been calling every 10 minutes. Apparently what happened tonight is making national news." He looked up at her. "They want to offer you something bigger than Director of Emergency Medicine. I'm not interested." "You haven't heard the offer yet." "I don't need to. I know what I want. And it's not here." Caldwell nodded slowly. "Quantico." "Yeah. You're making the right choice." He held out his phone. "But before you go, you should see this." Sophia took the phone. On the screen was a news article, published 20 minutes ago. "Hospital Chief of Staff resigns amid mass casualty response controversy." She scanned the article. Dr. Harold Martinez, the hospital's chief of staff, the same man who'd sent her a job offer she'd ignored, had resigned effective immediately. The article cited differences in management philosophy and concerns about staff treatment practices. But the next paragraph made Sophia's blood boil. An anonymous hospital source had come forward to reveal that Martinez had personally approved Caldwell's decision to place Sophia on desk duty despite her qualifications and had actively discouraged other departments from utilizing her skills. The source alleged that Martinez had called Sophia a liability the hospital couldn't afford and had instructed Caldwell to minimize her visibility to avoid patient concerns about staff competence. Sophia looked up at Caldwell. "You're the source. I couldn't let him keep getting away with it, with treating you that way, with treating anyone that way." Caldwell's voice was quiet. "I was part of it. I participated. I made your life hell because my boss told me to and because it was easier than standing up for what was right. But watching you tonight, watching you save all those people, I couldn't stay silent anymore. You torpedoed your own career. Martinez was your mentor. Martinez was a politician who cared more about optics than medicine. Good riddance. Caldwell stood up, wincing as his ribs protested. There's going to be an investigation. HR is already talking about reviewing personnel practices, looking into how other staff members have been treated. It's going to get messy. Good. Maybe something will actually change. Caldwell held out his hand. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know what you did tonight, what you've done all week. You're the best nurse I've ever worked with, the best medical professional I've ever worked with, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Sophia shook his hand. I forgive you, but I'm still leaving. I know, but Mercy General is going to miss you. Sophia left him there and walked to the nurse's station. Tom was charting. Rebecca was restocking supplies. The residents were conferring over lab results. The ER had returned to something approaching normal. Margaret, the older nurse who'd always been kind, appeared with a cup of coffee. Thought you could use this. Sophia took it gratefully. Thanks. I heard you're leaving for real this time, Quantico. Yeah, this weekend. Margaret smiled. Good for you. You deserve better than this place ever gave you. She paused. But for what it's worth, you made a difference here. Not just tonight, every day. Even when nobody was paying attention, you were making a difference. Sophia's throat was tight. That means a lot. She finished her coffee, gathered her things, and walked out of Mercy General Hospital for what she thought was the final time. Her car was still in the ambulance bay, now blocked in by 3 news vans. She was trying to figure out how to navigate around them when her phone rang. General Vance. Sullivan? Nurse Sullivan, I've been watching the news coverage from Cedar Heights. That was extraordinary work. Thank you, ma'am. I'm calling because I need to move up your start date. Something's happened at Quantico that requires immediate attention. How soon can you be here? Sophia looked at the hospital behind her, at the news crews, at the smoke still rising from the chemical plant, at the city that had broken her and then, in its own strange way, rebuilt her. I can be there tomorrow morning. Make it tonight. I'm sending a car to pick you up at 1800 hours. Bring everything you need for an extended stay. Ma'am, can I ask what this is about? A pause. We have a situation. A training incident went wrong. 3 special operations medics were injured, 1 critically. The incident is being reviewed and our entire combat medicine program is under scrutiny. I need someone who can step in, take control, and prove that our training is effective and our instructors are qualified. Another pause. I need someone who can handle pressure. Someone who's proven they can perform when everything's falling apart. I need you. Sophia closed her eyes. Thought about the past week, about Colonel Hayes and Jacob Morrison and the 23 victims of the chemical plant explosion, about every moment when she'd been told she wasn't good enough and had proven otherwise. I'll be ready, ma'am. She ended the call and looked at her phone. She had 12 hours to pack her life, say her goodbyes, and drive to Quantico. She was pulling out of the parking lot when she saw the woman standing by the ER entrance. Late 50s, wearing civilian clothes, her arm in a sling, the burn patient whose husband had gone back into the building. Sophia pulled over. The woman approached slowly, her face a map of pain and exhaustion. You're Sophia Sullivan. Yes. My husband didn't make it. They told me you were the one who tried to save him. Sophia's chest tightened. I'm so sorry. We did everything we could. I know, the doctor told me. The woman's eyes were red but dry, like she'd cried herself out. I wanted to thank you for trying, for caring, for being there. She held out her good hand. In it was a folded piece of paper. My husband wrote this before he went into the building. The paramedics found it in his pocket. I think you should have it. Sophia took the paper, unfolded it with trembling hands. The handwriting was shaky but legible. To whoever's reading this, if something happens to me, tell my wife I love her. Tell my kids I'm proud of them. And tell the nurse who's trying to save my life that she's doing important work. Don't let anyone tell her different. Dr. Marcus Caldwell. Sophia stared at the note, her vision blurring. That's not... She looked up at the woman. I'm sorry, there's been a mistake. Dr. Caldwell survived. He's inside, recovering. The woman's face crumpled. Then who? The person who didn't make it was one of the plant workers. I don't know their identity yet. Relief and guilt warred on the woman's face. I'm glad he's alive. I'm so glad. But someone else's family. She couldn't finish. Sophia reached out and squeezed the woman's good hand. I'll make sure they know their loved one was a hero. That's a promise. After the woman left, Sophia sat in her car holding Caldwell's note. He'd written it thinking he was going to die, thinking someone would need to save him. And he'd used his last words to defend the nurse he'd spent 3 months tearing down. People were complicated. They made mistakes. They hurt others. But they could also change, could choose to be better. She folded the note carefully and put it in her pocket next to the challenge coin from Colonel Hayes. Then she drove home to pack. Her apartment looked strange in the afternoon light, already half dismantled, already belonging to someone else. She loaded the last of her boxes into her car, took one final look around at the place where she'd spent 3 months feeling like a failure, and locked the door behind her. The drive to Quantico was supposed to take 6 hours. Sophia made it in 5. The main gate guard checked her ID, made a phone call, and waved her through. She followed the directions to the medical training facility and found Captain Rivera waiting in the parking lot. Nurse Sullivan, welcome. The general is in a meeting, but she'll want to see you as soon as... The door to the admin building burst open, and General Vance herself came out, moving fast. Sullivan, good. We don't have much time. She led Sophia inside without preamble, down a hallway, into a conference room where a dozen people in various uniforms were arguing over something on a projection screen. They all stopped when Vance entered. Gentlemen, this is Lieutenant Sullivan, our new senior combat trauma instructor. Vance turned to Sophia. I'm brevetting you to lieutenant effective immediately. We'll do the official commission ceremony later. Right now, I need you to look at this and tell me what went wrong. She pulled up a video on the screen. It showed a training exercise, a mock casualty scenario in a simulated combat environment. 3 students working on a mannequin that was bleeding from multiple wounds. And then something going wrong. One student dropping, then another, both of them convulsing. Carbon monoxide poisoning, Sophia said immediately. The smoke generators they're using for realism are producing CO, and they didn't have proper ventilation in that space. The victims aren't the patients, they're the medics. Vance's expression was grim. That's what we thought, but we need someone to prove it, someone to review the training protocols, identify the failures, and implement corrections. Someone who can stand in front of a congressional oversight committee next week and convince them that our program is safe. She looked at Sophia. Can you do that? Sophia thought about everything she'd been through, about being doubted and dismissed and told she wasn't good enough, about proving them wrong again and again and again. Yes, ma'am, she said. I can do that. Good, because if you can't, this program gets shut down, and every special operations medic in the military loses access to the best combat trauma training in the world. Vance handed her a folder. You have 72 hours to review everything, identify the problems, and present solutions. Your office is down the hall, your security clearance is being processed, and your first class starts Monday morning. Sophia took the folder. Inside were incident reports, training protocols, equipment specifications, everything she needed to rebuild a program from the ground up. One more thing, Vance said. The instructor who was running that training exercise, he's been placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. He's also claiming that the incident wasn't his fault, that someone sabotaged the smoke generators. She paused. His name is Lieutenant Commander David Rourke. He's been running this program for 5 years. He has friends in high places, and he's not going to go down without a fight. Sophia looked at the general. Is that a warning? That's a reality check. You're about to make some powerful enemies. Are you ready for that? Sophia thought about Caldwell, about Martinez, about every person who'd tried to break her and failed. I've been making enemies all week, ma'am, she said. What's a few more? Vance smiled. Welcome to Quantico, Lieutenant Sullivan. Try not to burn the place down on your first day. After the general left, Sophia stood alone in the conference room, looking at the frozen image on the screen. 2 medics lying on the ground. A training exercise gone catastrophically wrong. A program in jeopardy. And somewhere in this building, an instructor who was going to fight her every step of the way. She opened the folder and started reading. By midnight, she'd gone through every page twice. By 3 a.m., she'd identified 14 separate protocol violations that had contributed to the incident. By sunrise, she had a plan. She also had a problem. The smoke generators had been sabotaged. Someone had modified them to produce higher concentrations of carbon monoxide. Someone had deliberately created a dangerous situation. And according to the maintenance logs, the last person to inspect those generators had been Lieutenant Commander Rourke himself. Sophia picked up her phone and called General Vance. "Ma'am, we need to talk. I think this was intentional." General Vance answered on the first ring. Her voice was alert despite the early hour. Military officers didn't sleep like normal people. "Intentional how?" Sophia spread the maintenance logs across the desk in front of her. The smoke generators were modified 3 days before the incident. Someone increased the fuel mixture ratio and blocked the ventilation ports. It's not something that happens by accident. And according to these logs, Rourke personally signed off on the inspection the day before the exercise. A long pause. "You're saying he poisoned his own students?" "I'm saying the evidence points that way. Whether it was deliberate or negligent, I can't prove yet. But ma'am, there's something else." Sophia pulled up another document. Rourke's been running this program for 5 years. In that time, there have been 17 incidents during training exercises. Equipment failures, medical emergencies, students getting injured. The official reports all classify them as accidents, but the pattern is consistent. They always happen during exercises that Rourke personally supervises, and they always result in the program getting additional funding to improve safety measures. You think he's been a manufacturing crises to justify his budget? I think he's been playing a game. And 2 days ago, the game went too far and people got hurt. Sophia's voice was flat. "I need access to the students who were poisoned. I need to interview them, get their statements, find out what they remember. They're still in the hospital, medically cleared but under observation. Then I'll go to the hospital." Vance was quiet for a moment. "Lieutenant Sullivan, what you're suggesting could end Rourke's career, possibly result in criminal charges. You understand that?" "Yes, ma'am." "And you understand that if you're wrong, it could end yours before it starts." Sophia thought about the past week, about every time someone had told her to stay quiet, to accept her place, to not make waves, about what happened when she'd refused. "I'm not wrong," she said. "Then prove it. But be careful. Rourke has powerful friends. If he gets wind that you're building a case against him, he'll come after you with everything he has." The hospital was a 15-minute drive from the base. Sophia arrived just after sunrise, her knees stiff from the long night of sitting, her mind running through scenarios. The 2 students who'd been poisoned were in a shared room on the 3rd floor, both awake, both looking exhausted and angry. The first one, a Navy SEAL named Martinez, sat up when Sophia entered. "You're the new instructor. Lieutenant Sullivan, I'm here to ask you some questions about the incident." "You mean the incident where we almost died because someone screwed up the equipment?" Martinez's voice was bitter. "Yeah, I remember that pretty clearly. Walk me through what happened, everything you remember." Martinez glanced at the other student, a Marine raider named Williams, who nodded. "We were running a mass casualty scenario, standard setup. Rourke was supervising. He told us the smoke generators were new, said they'd create more realistic conditions. We didn't think anything of it. About 10 minutes in, I started feeling dizzy," Williams added. "Thought it was just the heat. Then Martinez dropped and I realized something was really wrong." "Did you notice anything unusual before the exercise started? Anything about the equipment, the setup, Rourke's behavior?" Martinez frowned. He was on his phone a lot, kept stepping outside to take calls, and he seemed, I don't know, nervous, like he was waiting for something. "Did he try to help you when you started showing symptoms?" "No. He wasn't even in the room when we went down. He'd left about 5 minutes before, said he had to check on something." Martinez's eyes narrowed. "Why? You think he knew something was wrong?" Sophia didn't answer directly. How long have you been training under Rourke? 6 weeks, but we've heard stories from other students. Equipment failures, guys getting hurt, exercises getting shut down because something went wrong. Some people joke that Rourke's courses are more dangerous than actual combat. Does anyone ever report these issues formally? William shook his head. You don't snitch in the teams, you tough it out. And besides, Rourke's got connections. Guys who complained in the past got quietly transferred out. We all know the deal. Sophia left the hospital with 2 recorded statements and a list of 7 other students who'd experienced incidents during Rourke's training. By noon, she'd interviewed 5 of them. By evening, she had a pattern that was impossible to ignore. Rourke had been running a systematic operation for years, creating dangerous situations, documenting them as accidents, using them to justify budget increases and program expansions. And because his students were special operations personnel who'd been conditioned not to complain, he'd gotten away with it. Until now. Sophia compiled everything into a report and sent it to General Vance at 2300 hours. Then she went to the quarters she'd been assigned, a small room in the officers' housing that smelled like fresh paint and government-issue furniture polish, and tried to sleep. She was awake when her door shook with heavy pounding at 0430. She opened it to find Lieutenant Commander Rourke standing in the hallway. He was tall, broad-shouldered, late 40s, with the kind of face that looked like it had been carved from granite. His eyes were cold and hard. You've been asking questions about me, he said. I've been investigating a training incident. That's my job. Your job is to teach combat medicine, not to play detective. He stepped closer, using his size to intimidate. I've been running this program since before you knew what a tourniquet was. I've trained hundreds of operators, saved countless lives. And you think you can waltz in here after 1 week and take me down? I think the evidence speaks for itself. Evidence. Rourke's laugh was ugly. You mean the statements from a couple of students who probably screwed up and are looking for someone to blame? That's not evidence. That's desperation. The maintenance logs show you personally modified the smoke generators. I signed off on a routine inspection. That's standard protocol. The fuel mixture ratios were altered. The ventilation was blocked. That's not routine. Rourke's expression didn't change. Prove it was me. I intend to. He leaned in close enough that Sophia could smell coffee and stale tobacco on his breath. Let me tell you how this works, Lieutenant. You're new. You're unproven. You've got a bum knee and a file full of medical discharge paperwork. I've got 5 years of perfect performance reviews and a chest full of medals. If this becomes a he said, she said situation, who do you think they're going to believe? Sophia met his eyes. They'll believe the evidence. What evidence? Some maintenance logs that could have been tampered with by anyone? Student statements from guys who were hypoxic and confused? That's circumstantial at best. He smiled. You've got nothing. And when General Vance realizes you've wasted her time chasing conspiracy theories, you're going to be back at some nowhere ER answering phones, if you're lucky. He turned and walked away, his boots echoing in the empty hallway. Sophia stood there for a long moment, her knee throbbing, her hands shaking with adrenaline and anger. Then she went back inside, pulled out her laptop, and started working. If Rourke thought he could intimidate her into backing down, he'd badly miscalculated. The Congressional Oversight Committee was scheduled to meet at 1400 hours on Monday. Sophia had 72 hours to build an airtight case. She spent Saturday reviewing every training incident from the past 5 years, cross-referencing equipment logs with budget requests, building a timeline that showed exactly when and how Rourke had manipulated the system. She interviewed 12 more students, documented their experiences, recorded their statements. Sunday morning, she found the smoking gun. It was buried in an email chain between Rourke and a civilian contractor who supplied training equipment. The contractor had flagged concerns about the smoke generators 3 months ago, noting that the fuel mixture specifications exceeded safe parameters. Rourke had responded telling him to ship them anyway and to keep it quiet. Sophia printed the email, added it to her evidence file, and called General Vance. Ma'am, I have what I need. Monday arrived cold and clear. The Oversight Committee met in a secure conference room at the Pentagon, 20 miles from Quantico. Sophia wore her new uniform, the silver bars of a lieutenant fresh and shining on her collar, the medical insignia she'd been given by Colonel Hayes pinned above her name tag. Her knee was killing her. She'd wrapped it, braced it, taken enough ibuprofen to worry her liver. It didn't matter. This wasn't about physical comfort. This was about justice. The committee consisted of 5 members of Congress, 3 generals, and enough aides and stenographers to fill the gallery. At the front table sat Lieutenant Commander Rourke, looking confident and composed in his dress blues. General Vance opened the proceedings. We're here to review the training incident that occurred on Thursday and to determine whether the combat medical training program at Quantico meets acceptable safety standards. Lieutenant Sullivan, you've conducted the investigation. Please present your findings. Sophia stood, walked to the front of the room, set down her folder, and looked directly at the committee. On Thursday, 2 students were poisoned during a training exercise supervised by Lieutenant Commander Rourke. The official report classified it as an equipment malfunction. That report is incorrect. The incident was the result of deliberate equipment modification that created dangerous conditions. Rourke's lawyer, he'd brought a lawyer, stood up. Objection. Lieutenant Sullivan is making serious accusations without— I have evidence, Sophia said calmly. She pulled out the maintenance logs. These show that Lieutenant Commander Rourke personally inspected the smoke generators the day before the incident. The fuel mixture ratios had been altered to produce carbon monoxide at levels 3 times the safe threshold. The ventilation ports had been blocked. She pulled out the email chain. 3 months ago, the equipment supplier raised concerns about these exact modifications. Lieutenant Commander Rourke instructed him to proceed anyway and to keep the concerns confidential. The room had gone silent. Furthermore, Sophia continued, my investigation revealed a pattern of similar incidents over the past 5 years. 17 training exercises resulted in student injuries or equipment failures. All 17 occurred during exercises personally supervised by Lieutenant Commander Rourke. All 17 resulted in budget increases for the program. She pulled out the student statements. I have testimony from 19 students describing unsafe conditions, equipment failures, and a culture of intimidation that prevented them from reporting concerns. One of the generals leaned forward. Lieutenant Sullivan, are you alleging that Commander Rourke deliberately endangered his students? I'm presenting the evidence and letting it speak for itself, sir. But yes, I believe Commander Rourke created dangerous situations to justify his program's existence and expansion. Rourke shot to his feet. This is absurd. I've dedicated 5 years to this program. I've trained some of the best combat medics in the military. And now this nurse with a grudge is trying to destroy my career with fabricated evidence and coerced testimony. The evidence isn't fabricated, Sophia said. And the testimony wasn't coerced. It's documented, corroborated, and verifiable. By who? Students who were hypoxic? Maintenance logs that anyone could have altered? An email that could have been taken out of context? Rourke's voice rose. This is a witch hunt conducted by someone who's been on the job for less than a week. Then explain the pattern, Sophia said quietly. Explain why 17 incidents occurred under your supervision. Explain why you told the equipment supplier to ignore safety concerns. Explain why you left the training room 5 minutes before your students collapsed. I left to check on other students in a different exercise. That's standard supervision protocol. The other exercise had already concluded. I checked the schedule. Rourke's face was going red. You're twisting facts to fit a narrative. I'm presenting facts and letting the committee draw conclusions. Sophia turned back to the panel. The question isn't whether I have a grudge. The question is whether this program is safe, whether students can train without fear of being deliberately endangered, whether the military should tolerate instructors who put personal advancement above the lives of the people they're supposed to be training. One of the congresswomen spoke up. General Vance, what's your assessment? Vance stood. Based on Lieutenant Sullivan's investigation, I'm recommending that Lieutenant Commander Rourke be relieved of his teaching duties pending a full criminal investigation. I'm also recommending a complete review of all training protocols and safety procedures. She paused. Lieutenant Sullivan has demonstrated exceptional investigative skills, attention to detail, and commitment to student safety. I'm placing her in temporary command of the combat medical training program effective immediately. Man abot samuti. The room erupted. Rourke's lawyer was shouting objections. Several committee members were talking at once. Aides were scrambling to take notes. Sophia just stood there, watching Rourke's face as the reality sank in. He was finished. Everything he'd built on lies and manipulation was coming down around him. His eyes met hers across the room. There was hatred there, but also recognition. He'd underestimated her, thought she was weak because she was injured, thought she'd back down because she was new. He'd thought wrong. The committee voted unanimously to accept Vance's recommendations. Rourke was escorted out by military police, still protesting, still insisting it was all a misunderstanding. His lawyer promised appeals and lawsuits and investigations of the investigation. None of it mattered. The evidence was solid. The case was closed. After the committee adjourned, Vance pulled Sophia aside. "That was exceptional work, Lieutenant. You just saved this program and probably prevented future casualties." "Just doing my job, ma'am." "No, you did far more than your job. You stood up to someone with power and connections, knowing it could destroy your career before it started. That takes courage." Vance handed her a folder. "This is your official assignment as Director of Combat Medical Training. You'll oversee curriculum development, instructor selection, and all student safety protocols. You'll report directly to me." Sophia took the folder, her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't thank me. You earned this. Now go fix what Rourke broke." The next 2 weeks were a blur. Sophia rebuilt the training program from scratch. New protocols, new equipment inspections, new safety measures. She interviewed every instructor, reviewed every exercise, created systems to ensure that students could report concerns without fear of retaliation. She also taught her first class, 40 special operations medics, all watching her with varying degrees of skepticism. A woman with a limp teaching combat medicine to the military's elite. She started by telling them about Colonel Hayes, about the helicopter in the storm, about the chest tube she'd placed with turbulence trying to throw her across the cabin. Then she told them about Jacob Morrison, about the Blakemore tube in his abdomen, about saving a 7-year-old's life with nothing but improvisation and stubbornness. Then she told them about the chemical plant explosion, about 23 casualties and the decision to use a damaged knee and exhausted body to save as many as she could. "Combat medicine isn't about being perfect," she said. "It's about being effective when everything's falling apart. It's about making decisions with incomplete information and living with the consequences. It's about pushing through pain and fear and exhaustion because someone's life depends on it." She paused. "You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have moments when you doubt yourself, when you think you can't do this. But I'm here to tell you that you can, because I did. With a knee that barely works and people telling me I wasn't good enough. And if I can do it, you can too." The class was silent for a moment. Then one student, a young Army Ranger who looked about 19, raised his hand. "Ma'am, is it true you got fired from a hospital and then they tried to hire you back as director?" Sophia smiled. "Not quite. I quit because they didn't value what I could do. Then I saved a bunch of lives and they realized their mistake. But by then, I'd found something better." This? 3 months later, Sophia stood in a ceremony hall at Quantico surrounded by generals, admirals, and more brass than she'd ever seen in one room. General Vance pinned the Navy and Marine Corps medal on her chest, the highest non-combat decoration for heroism, for her actions in saving Colonel Hayes. Colonel Hayes himself was there, fully recovered, standing at attention in his dress blues. When the ceremony ended, he approached her. "Lieutenant Sullivan, or should I say, Lieutenant Commander Sullivan?" He gestured to the new rank insignia she'd been given along with the medal. "Lieutenant is fine, sir. The promotion is still sinking in. You've earned it. Everything you've earned." He held out a small box. "My daughters wanted me to give you this." Inside was a bracelet, simple silver with an engraving. "Because of you, our dad came home." Sophia's eyes burned. "I can't accept this." "You don't have a choice. Jennifer specifically said if you tried to refuse, I was supposed to tell you it's a direct order." Hayes smiled. "She's applying to the Naval Academy next year. Says she wants to be a combat medic like you." "Oh, she'll be better than me." "Maybe. But she'll be following in your footsteps." He paused. "You changed things, Sullivan. Not just for me, not just for this program. For every person who's been told they're not good enough because they're injured or different or don't fit someone's narrow definition of capable, you proved them all wrong. After the ceremony, Sophia found a quiet spot outside and called Tom at Mercy General. "Hey, stranger," he answered. "Saw you on the news. Navy and Marine Corps medal. That's a big deal. Yeah, still doesn't feel real. How's the new job? Challenging, rewarding, everything I needed." She paused. "How are things there?" "Different. Better, actually. The new administrator cleaned house, fired 3 department heads who'd been enabling the same culture that made your life hell. Caldwell's still here, but he's changed. Actually listens to people now, treats the staff with respect." Tom's voice softened. "We miss you, though." "I miss you too. But I'm where I'm supposed to be." "I know, we all know. But you left an impact here. People talk about you, about what you did, about how you didn't let them break you." He laughed quietly. "Rebecca uses you as an example when she's training new nurses. Tells them about the nurse who saved a colonel's life with a bum knee and proved everyone wrong." After she hung up, Sophia sat there watching the sun set over Quantico. Her knee was aching. It always ached now, probably always would. She'd need another surgery eventually, maybe more than one. But she was teaching the next generation of combat medics. She was running a program that would save countless lives. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer Hayes. "Just got my acceptance letter to the Naval Academy. I'm going to be a medic like you. Thank you for showing me it's possible." Sophia smiled and typed back. "You're going to be amazing. Just remember, they're going to doubt you. They're going to tell you you can't do it. Prove them wrong. Every single time." The response came immediately. "I learned from the best." Sophia stood up, her knee protesting, and walked back toward the training center. She had lesson plans to review, equipment to inspect, a program to run. She'd spent 3 months being told she was broken, being treated like she was worthless, being dismissed and diminished and pushed aside. And then she'd saved a Marine colonel's life in a helicopter during a storm. She'd saved a 7-year-old boy using a procedure most doctors wouldn't attempt. She'd run a mass casualty event and didn't lose a single patient. She'd taken down a corrupt instructor and saved a training program. She'd proven again and again that the only person who got to decide her worth was her. Not the people who doubted her, not the ones who'd made her life hell, not the system that had tried to break her, her. And that was worth more than any medal, any promotion, any recognition, because at the end of the day, the most important person she'd proven anything to was herself. She pulled out the challenge coin Colonel Hayes had given her and the bracelet from his daughters, added them to the collection of things that reminded her who she was and what she'd overcome. Then she went inside to teach the next class. Because that's what she did. She taught. She saved lives. She proved people wrong. And she'd keep doing it, bad knee and all, for as long as they'd let her. Maybe longer.